All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Test 1, 2, 3. There we go. We are live. People, welcome in. The REMINGTOM Pod is live on another Sunday night edition. We've got a fun one for you. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed their weekend. Of course, we had a pretty exciting weekend on at least the Iowa side of the REMINGTOM Pod of things. Just going for the typical sort of Saturday night casual hang with the boys. There's a nice little spot downtown that's got a little rooftop patio situation. You can kind of hang out there, and then occasionally they do have uh, like some games and stuff set up. I guess now that I think about it, they didn't really have. I guess the bags are always set up. Make no mistake, in Iowa, if there is a bag set up, it's never gonna get like taken away. That would be crazy. So it is what it is. Most of the time, you'd go into a place and you would say, we need a bag set up here at some point. But they do have like a ping pong table, and then on the indoor part of the rooftop, there's like a little bowling pin situation as well, to a little like mini bowling alley situation. But again, you can kind of hang out on the roof. It is a fun spot, so you're hanging out there. And then downtown, they also have the rentable electric scooters as well too. So I mean, we're hopping on some of those, and we're trying to catch a hill at some point, and then it is what it is. One of the guys just wipes out, and we're in the ER for the next couple hours. Buddy broke his arm. Shout out, rest up. It is what it is. But yeah, so we had the first 24-hour, the first stay up 24-hour stretch in quite a while, because at that point, once we were in the ER for a couple hours, at that point it was like, I typically I was just like, okay, we're gonna go home, go to bed for a couple hours, and then just get up and go to the gym. At this point, it's like, well, let's just go to the gym and then just go home and go to bed for a couple hours and just get it all out of the way. So we were really pushing. I guess didn't do the math. We were close enough, 24 hours. It is what it is. But yeah, shout out. So we're back on normal schedule, working the way toward the work week here as we wind down Sunday night, like we were saying. But yeah, we do have a couple of fun things to focus on. We do have, of course, as the NFL season quickly approaches, something to mess around with there. But it is also so there's something that we're gonna throw on in the background here, and I guess I probably should just get it started up. It is what it is. But I don't know. I guess I mentioned this on the recent live stream that we did Friday night, but I feel like I guess, for those that don't know, hey, I'm not necessarily a big horror movie guy, but I feel like I want to start just watching horror movies. I guess it is what it is. I don't know if I need to do sort of the roadmap to how we got there, but it's just the movies that have seemed to kind of catch our attention that we want to watch, that we've been hearing about lately. So as well as like even Sinners this year. I mean, that technically is, I guess, a horror movie, but not really. It's more just kind of a vampire movie in that sense. Again, movie of the year. But just to put it in the genre, I don't know if it goes like full horror. It uses some of the storytelling elements and beats and pacing and stuff. And again, you got the vampires, so it's not, a vampire comedy per se. But it is a little bit more of just kind of a vampire action movie. And that one, that one's got some scenes where you kind of, maybe there's a little bit of a wince in there. But, a movie like Heat or Scarier or something, like those movies don't have like crazy violent scenes as well too. And, the ones that do are the ones that maybe don't get like super rewatched a lot as well. But regardless, and that's why I guess the one that we have on in the background right now for tonight, and it did turn out, it worked out that, again, sometimes the stars just align, chat. It is what it is, but we got the interest into the horror movies, and then we got this movie has let's do the math here, chat. What do we got? The 35th anniversary of The Exorcist 3. So again, the fact that we have never really seen horror movies, I didn't go in and watch the first two Exorcists to prepare for this. We're just going in to watch the third one blind. And I guess typically, as well too, in some of the movie reacts that we've done, they're rewatches, movies that are classics, movies that we love. But this will be like a first time watch for this as well too. And it'll be a good practice run for when the Denzel Spike Lee movie hits Apple TV Plus. Because I don't think, unfortunately, we're going to be able to get down to that small theater and check it out. But, and I guess, yeah, well, we still could. But I guess at this point as well too, the idea of watching it live could be fun as well. I wasn't necessarily thinking about that when I was thinking about going to see it for the theatrical release. So maybe we'll pivot to that way. So I guess stay tuned for when the Denzel Spike Lee movie drops. we'll be watching that live when it drops on Apple TV Plus. It is out in theaters right now if you can get to a theater to go see it for sure. But yeah, so I guess I don't know what that had to do with the horror movies, but regardless, the stars were aligning that we had the anniversary of this movie and the interest in horror movies. This one was I was listening to an episode. I forget which episode of the Rewatchables. Maybe it was The Conjuring because they haven't done a ton of horror movies on there. But they had mentioned this as one of the peak scariest scares in a horror movie. I guess I don't remember if they said necessarily, start to finish. And I was, seeing some of the scores and stuff, it's not like critically acclaimed as like an all-time classic movie. I think horror fans, and again, maybe the some of the single scares and stuff in this live on. I just don't know. We'll have to see. But if there's a scene in here that is in the competition for the scariest scene, then I think we just start with the most intense and just see what happens at that point. And I feel like these as well too. In the 90s, you start going a little bit older. Oh, chat, the spinning camera is trippy. Hey yo, we're not even gonna get sick from the scares. It's just gonna be the spinning whirling camera that's gonna get us thrown off. But a chopper scene to start off, hey yo, this has a little bit more scale than some horror movies. I guess with the title The Exorcist, I would assume that it would be a little bit more in that Conjuring type of line where the point of the movie is that there's just going to be an exorcism at some point. But the description on Pluto, I guess it's live. It's streaming on Pluto right now. If you guys are interested in watching The Exorcist 3 as well, but the description says something about a Gemini sort of serial killer character. So again, conjuring sort of the supernatural horror. I guess there are like consistent supernatural villains, but for some of it specifically as well too, it just becomes more the supernatural element is the sort of terror. But I guess for the Conjuring specifically, you've got like Annabelle in that franchise is a sort of constant character throughout. Even the Nun getting a little bit more notoriety there as well. But you do have for this one like a cop investigating type ordeal, so that's not, I guess, crazy as well too. And I guess we are kind of approaching this from The Conjuring being one of the main horror franchises that we've actually seen as well. But like we said before, that one checks the boxes of good scary movie, but not necessarily unwatchable in terms of how gruesome it gets. At times, does seem to do a good job of just keeping you scared with some of the anticipation. And that one is a little bit nicer as well too, especially the original Conjuring. I feel like everybody, I haven't seen the original one in a while, but I feel like everybody makes it out of that one, at least when you get to the main family part by the end. And then Ed and Lorraine, of course. I guess we'll see, because there is a trailer for a new Conjuring as well too, so I don't know if they're at risk of killing them off in the movies, but they never get, obviously at this point, I guess I haven't looked at their story too much, they don't like get killed off in real life by one of these things. So chat, Martin Sheen just threw a body out a window. Hey yo, I guess Martin Sheen got thrown off a roof in The Departed. Hey yo, shout out RIP Martin Sheen's character in The Departed. But this guy getting chucked out a window, not great. I don't know, this priest seems kind of, this priest is the sketchy one, I guess, but there's a sketchy vibe to him. I don't know if that was directed, again, for us not seeing the first couple, I don't know if he is sort of a character that has been in the last, but you got a guy dying and then a cut to a guy sort of doing a ritual on screen at the same time usually is a little bit of a sign at that point. But yeah, like we were saying, the Conjuring is kind of a good, for the rewatchability standpoint, there's not necessarily the tragic death or something like that at one point. And a movie that was not necessarily recommended to us, but a movie that we were talking about with somebody at work, that they said it was one of the first horror movies that they had watched and were just really scared by it and have like never watched it since and didn't want to go back to it at all. But it was Children of the Corn, which, Stephen King, 1984. So I was like, well, obviously I got to check this movie out to make fun of him at work now, to tell him about how not scary this movie is. But also with it being 84, it's like, okay, there's going to be a manageability there to some of the graphics, some of the stuff, if it has to go in that direction. And that movie's actually really good. Again, I don't know the critical acclaim for that movie, how the received and all that different stuff. But it was a really fun watch. Again, sort of the same thing. I guess spoiler alert for Children of the Corn if you haven't seen the 1984 version yet. So, waiting 1, 2, 3 spoilers. Again, everybody kind of makes it out of that one. I guess if you just kind of spoil the whole plot, the movie starts with there's like a murder scene at the beginning of the movie. So, you have that sort of, there's like a takeover of the town Children of the Corn. So I guess, yeah, the kids take over the town. That's not necessarily a big spoiler, kind of in the title there. But, so you have them accomplishing that early in the movie. But again, you're not like connected to the parent characters and the cafe workers and stuff at that point. So the people that you're introduced to, Linda Hamilton makes it out okay. So that is basically the major part of the movie. And I guess, would they kill off Linda Hamilton? I guess you never know at some point. But they haven't killed off Jamie Lee Curtis in the Halloween franchise. So, I guess would you kill off Linda? And that would be more of a Stephen King in the book as well, too. More so than just, I guess, the screenwriters at that point. But is Halloween based on a book? I don't think so. It's Carpenter, right? So Carpenter's a original guy. He's out there cooking up stuff for sure. But yeah, so we'll see how this goes. I don't even remember exactly what they had described as the scariest scene. So maybe there'll be a totally different scene that's just the scariest scene to us. I guess I don't know. But maybe I do think that there was he said it was some living room situation. I don't remember, but we'll just have to see what happens. There's a trash can in the corner if we need it, chat. Hey, yo, if we just have to randomly stumble away, just get too scared, we'll see what happens. But we should have do we have like a blanket around here? IT, get us a blanket we can just hide behind at some point as well too. But to help distract us so we don't just don't get I guess too frightened, so we can sleep tonight, we are going to try to figure out what could potentially be the QB rankings for the 2025 season. And I guess I never really know how to rank the guys as well too, because again, if you narrow it down to one criteria or one sort of way to rank a quarterback, it's just not necessarily going to be fully encompassing of what you're going to get from that skill set of a player or just the impact they show as well too. So it is just kind of like a vibe, sort of a biased, which guys would you rather have sort of ordeal. And I think maybe even different criteria can matter for different levels of quarterbacks as well. Like if you go with the top guys, at the end of the day, the results thing is probably going to matter more than maybe just the skill ability of it versus, and I guess to some degree, again, that's just kind of always going to be the most important thing is this guy, getting results at the end of the day. But yeah, as you go sort of down the list as well too, there is sort of a stats production thing that you can rely on as well too, compared to just, this guy, we look at the win total, we look at the production for what he's able to accomplish at the end of games, which is basically the reason I still think, of course, that, are we just, trying not to get Sam too upset? I don't know. But do we still have to have Mahomes as the number one quarterback in the league at this point? Because I still feel like in the most important situations, you're going to take Mahomes, and that's just the most important thing in the league. I mean, Josh Allen was incredible last year in basically every step of the way compared to Mahomes. Same with Lamar. There's a great tier of younger guys that are, at this point, how do you rank them? But you can see in this next season, if they take big strides in the next couple of seasons, you can see it getting really competitive, of course, up those lists. But I mean, Mahomes is still the guy. And the thing is, it's not even that Mahomes is just kind of the guy from a championship standpoint. Like, Mahomes is so clearly, it just has, I guess, he has so much more playoff accolades than the other players that he's playing against at this time. And again, he is part of that. And it is a little MJ-ish in that type of way. And this is where, as his career actually goes on as well too, we've had that run. I guess for MJ, he was able to kind of ascend and then ride his career out being the top guy, winning the championships every year. Because basically, once he wins the title, doesn't really have kind of a normal season again until where he doesn't win a title at that point because he's either retired or, working his way back from retirement or just on the Wizards or something like that. When he's back on the Wizards, it's just a whole different thing at that point. But once he actually ascends to the championship level, he never really drops off. So that's, of course, the incredible thing about MJ and the teams that they were able to assemble around him. Of course, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman in the later runs and stuff like that. But I forget. I saw a reel because there's a Joel Klatt Brady Fox show. I guess it's going to be built around this concept as well too. But there's like 6 quarterbacks right now that have won a Super Bowl, and that list actually feels generous as well because you got, of course, Mahomes is 1-3 at this point, but Rodgers with the Super Bowl. You do also have Stafford with the Super Bowl as well. And here I'm gonna have to just look at the league and just see who else. Oh, I guess Hurts, because Hurts just won it as well too. So I'm not not the disrespectful Super Bowl, but this the different type of it. Just fresh in the mind. I guess still hasn't necessarily had a chance to dry up pause in NFL history. So you got those 4. That's crazy. IT, cut that out. But let's see. Oh, Russell Wilson for sure as well too. But that goes to the point. You got Wilson, Rodgers. So at least 3 of those guys are definitely in a little bit of a different spot of their career. And I'm guessing you're counting Flacco as well too. If the number is 6, you've got to have Flacco from Cleveland in that. So the last guy would probably be is it NFC chat? Let me see. I'm not thinking about who it is right now. Let me see, because I guess is it another guy on the Giants or Browns? They do have quite a stacked QB room at this point. Maybe I mentioned him already and I'm just not counting right as well too. But regardless, the point being, a majority of the list is not necessarily, we could say, wash, whatever you want to say, but they're not necessarily competing with Mahomes for his spot on the list as well too. Point being, even if, we'll see what happens in this QB list where Russell Wilson might not even get obviously the starting job of his own team. We'll have to see. But, he could, Rodgers could have a really good season for sure, but he's not going to have a Mahomes level season. And I guess, again, you don't necessarily need him to have, I guess, what we consider. I guess maybe the bar for what a Mahomes level season is as well too becomes a little bit different. But I think ultimately what that is just a guy that is able to get your team to the conference championship or the Super Bowl every year, and make your fan base feel like the confidence in the quarterback that they can win it with them at the quarterback. And even with some of the guys, of course, being at the peak of their powers, with the history as well too, it does become a bit of a mental factor for the fan bases in there. And Hurts is a guy now with that ring that has to be, I think, in that conversation. But I guess, we can mention Hurts as well too in a second. But I mean, again, Mahomes has just kind of cleared everybody from a championship status at this point. And I guess to compare it to the Brady thing earlier on, where you do have Brady wins the 3 rings and then goes the decade, of course, without winning a Super Bowl. But I feel like, Mahomes maybe has done a little bit more than Brady did in those early Super Bowls. I mean, I guess that would just be us having to go back and watch because he was emerging. But, early Mahomes, just that first season or 2, of course, the emergence of him was one of the most impressive that we've seen from a quarterback, if not the most. Oh, Chad, who are these 2 old ladies? These are creepy. Jesus, this is going to be crazy to try to focus on this QB rankings with this Exorcist movie on in the background. This is going to be impossible. But, yeah. I guess is there going to be just a cut to Tom Brady's face down, probably, 4th quarter, about to make a 4th quarter game-winning drive? It's like the priest is just like, okay, we've pull back the curtain. It's just Tom Brady's like, 4th quarter. Maybe we need to make like a 4th quarter Tom Brady parody as well too, because and maybe losing the Super Bowl was part of this for that sort of mental factor for the Mahomes thing. But it does feel like the clutchness thing, and Brady, obviously 20 years, this decade worth of Super Bowls, I don't know how many he has, like the legacy that he has is still number 1, so the confidence is still definitely going to be there. But just that late game ability, it does still feel like the terror of Brady is still the most, at least for me anyways. If I was the opposing fan, just the idea of a last drive against Tom Brady versus Mahomes, it's just a little bit scarier versus Tom Brady at this point. So maybe from an all-time standpoint, again with some of the accolades, maybe there's the last sort of uh, random one of the last random things he's got to just continue to accomplish as well too. But you would have had again Manning in the early part of the 2000s getting those regular season accolades as well, and I guess Lamar has also gotten the regular season accolades around Mahomes as well. So there is other guys with the awards stacked up in the same sort of way. But again, from a playoff standpoint, Mahomes is just separated, and Manning would have been a little sort of iffy at that point early in the 2000s. He would have that '05 playoffs right after that Brady run would have been tough because, Vanderjagt misses the field goal, which is a little Josh Allen-y in that type of way where it did feel like you almost wonder if this, again, the way Josh Allen played and some of the ways those plays turned out at the end of that last game, it's, you can't really blame him for a result more so than it just happens to be that he's on that end of the result. And unfortunately, that result is just in line with a lot of the results that we've had. And that's where Manning was at in '05, the year before he won the Super Bowl. Because, again, that Vanderjagt field goal, and, there's like just random plays leading up to that where you have Bettis fumbling at the goal line and the defender running it back into field goal range, and then Vanderjagt just shanks a field goal that feels like he probably should have made, and he's supposedly the best kicker in the league at that point. And then, they go out and get Vinatieri after that as well, too. But, and he is a little more Manning combined with Lamar, in terms of the regular season accolades, would be one of the few overlaps that they do have at the quarterback position. So probably why Manning would still, rank a little bit higher all-time list than both of those guys, because it's, Josh Allen early playoffs and Lamar early regular season kind of rolled into one accolades-wise, and then ends up getting a couple Super Bowls of his own as well, too. But this is basically now entering that sort of decade stretch. And I guess the thing for Brady that did happen, like we've said before, in that stretch where he wasn't necessarily winning Super Bowls, but he was a better version of the quarterback than he was earlier on. So he had the success with a little less skill, but then was able to sort of rectify his skill, where it's like, okay, well, if you put 2007 Brady on the 2000s Pats, they're probably, it's just a deadly team at that point as well. To, circumstances, individual results, obviously, time machine, who knows what you can change. But the idea of a player of that level of skill, he was able to build up to be one of the best actual quarterbacks in the league, even if it wasn't necessarily resulting in the playoff wins. So that's where it is interesting with the Mahomes thing, where it does feel like it is going a little bit in the other direction, where it was like the amazing sort of athleticism stuff was earlier in the career, and then it's kind of mellowing out as it goes, obviously. But, I mean, I think some of his, I guess some of there's like some of the advanced stuff, I guess you can kind of pick and choose how you want to look at it, for sure. But the Chiefs offense just potentially being healthier and more equipped with some of the offensive line stuff, especially later in the season. Because I think even for Chiefs fans, even still the late season stuff is what is the most important, not necessarily just winning. I think winning the division is cool at this point for Chiefs fans because the streak is just, I don't even know, what it is at even. But, just to kind of keep the streak and the dominance going for the AFC West, that would be, something Chiefs fans I think would want. But they are still obviously a Super Bowl expectation. Expectation is what I meant to say there the first time. But a Super Bowl expectation type team going into the season. And in some ways, I wonder if the motivation for this season will be better for them actually trying to win one. Because last year, you almost have them not trying to take the regular season off. Because you look at it, they're 15-2. But we know how wonky some of those results were. But they were just so focused on getting back into that Super Bowl and then just winning that game. And then I don't know if the moment kind of had anything to do with the performance as well, too. But obviously it didn't end up going well and weren't able to accomplish that three-peat. But now that they're kind of back on the, reset from the Super Bowl streaks type of timeline, people aren't kind of having the same hype for them. Maybe there is a actually prove people wrong thing that they need to, not need, but that they will actually be able to have as a narrative thing for this year. Because again, even last year with the fact, even if people were necessarily doubting them as a 15-2 team, I don't they were just so focused on getting back, and they knew that they just had to get there. So it's like, we don't really care if it's ugly or whatever. As long as we get in the game and have a chance to win, we're fine with that. So they were so focused on that I feel like maybe the sort of reset expectations could be good for them in a way as well too, and give Mahomes that motivation to continue to, put up the great stats and be the top production quarterback, as well as just the number one sort of impact guy and playoff guy as well too. But again, with the playoff resume so stacked as his at this point, I don't know how you don't have him going into the season and again not feel good about it. I don't. And some of the third down playmaking stuff is, even if it's not the running ability of some of the other guys, and I guess, I was gonna say like the EPA, but I guess we could actually probably pull up EPA and see what it says. But it feels like that sort of mental EPA is still definitely there for Mahomes as well too. But again, the top three guys at this point are going to be Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar in some order. You so badly want to put Lamar at number 2 on this list, because I do think that Lamar is the second. I mean, Lamar is probably at this point the most talented quarterback in the league. I'm trying to continue to reshuffle with all of the new quarterbacks as well too. I guess Arch Manning isn't in the league quite yet. Hey, yo. We haven't technically seen J.J. McCarthy play, but, C.J. Stroud, is Jaden Daniels in that conversation as well, too. I guess, we'll have to see from the quarterback class this year. But, he is, the speed and the passing ability when it's locked in the regular season. I still think that I would rather have the best version of Lamar than Josh Allen, but unfortunately, Josh Allen, even if, both of them are still working with the limited playoff success compared to Mahomes, Josh Allen has had better playoff moments than Lamar, is what it is. So again, this kind of point in the ratings, this is kind of what matters a little bit at this time. Because I guess, again, they all have great regular season stats and stuff. And, if Lamar hadn't won a couple of MVPs before, he probably would have won the one from last year, which, again, I don't want to say takes away from Josh Allen, because they were both pretty awesome last year. And the Ravens may have been a slightly better team, which helped. I guess we'd have to go back and double-check the rosters. And, the Ravens have injury stuff, but so do the Bills as well, too. And the Bills' defense, notoriously, obviously, shout out DeMar Hamlin. But, other than that, notoriously just regular other types of injuries as well, too, that happen. But I still think that you have to go Mahomes 1, probably Josh Allen 2, and Lamar 3, just for playoff confidence as well too. But I don't know. I feel like every year I'm like, this is the last year I'll give Lamar a chance as a play, before I'm just like, okay, it is what it is, I'm out. But this is it. This is the last year. So I guess we can be biased, right? It's preseason. I don't know. Lamar should have won the MVP last year. It is what it is. I like the look of the list. For some reason, that just, the gut says that looks better. But I know that, based on last year, it's probably a little, I guess based on last year, this is not the wrong answer. But, and, Burrow is right there as well, too. I think, obviously, being the one guy to actually take down Mahomes in a playoff series is very important. Though he is getting, for myself included, I'm sort of saying this, he is getting this, but, I'm saying from me, pause, but he is, I guess, let me rephrase, I'm giving him sort of a lot of leeway based on this playoff run that he had, which I guess has only technically now been 3 playoff runs, so this would be a 4th season / playoff opportunities, I guess, more so. They haven't necessarily made the playoffs all 3 times, but again, 3 years since them making it to the Super Bowl. And if Tyreek Hill, if they have that whole halftime at the goal line debacle situation and are able to score there, who knows how the game looks. Even that game as well, like we're saying, Mahomes has only ever been eliminated in the AFC Championship game in overtime as well, too. So that game was even as close as you can get, even if we're giving Burrow the credit for actually getting the win over Mahomes. And that's the thing about Allen and Lamar as well too. Is even in that last game, it doesn't like Allen. It felt like if there was a year where he could have gone out and they could have, and again from a team roster standpoint, we want to be fair, but if he could have gone out and maybe they win that game a little bit more comfortably, 10 kind of points range, and it feels like they're in control the whole time. That's just a different type of win than, again, even it's like, oh, Mahomes is right there. Because I think he does have a mental hold on some of the guys. And I don't want to say that necessarily because I can't, Josh Allen's afraid of Pat Mahomes. Who I can't say. I'm only sitting here watching the games and looking at the fact that Mahomes is winning playoff games every year. But again, we know that they should win a couple of those games, and that Lamar had that game against Mahomes in the playoffs 2 years ago, where the pick at the end of the game, and it's just a tough way that one turns out for Ravens fans. But it does feel like we're saying at the end of these games, those quarterbacks are making those mistakes. And I don't know if that's just and I guess for Allen as well too, and this last one specifically. We'd have to go back and recall. I think maybe it was some of the more receiver stuff as well too, but I don't know if there's other plays outside of that. Which play can we find to prove our point? But again, I think I think if you're another quarterback going into a matchup against Pat Mahomes, it does matter. I would say except for Jalen Hurts. And I think the problem with putting Jalen Hurts in the quarterback rankings right now is there is still a weird thing with the players with him. And the Eagles guys love him. Maybe it's just an opposing team sort of like, almost a jealousy type thing. I don't necessarily want to say that as well too, but you can kind of get into and again, I forget who I was just listening to talk about Brunson as well. Make no mistake, it's summer, so we've just been crushing rewatchables pods. But somebody was talking about Brunson. Oh, it might have been Van Lathan. And he just had that, some guys when you're watching them play sports, I guess they feel stoppable. And I don't know if Jalen Hurts has that type of, he should feel stoppable. Oh, Chad, Patrick Ewing is in the Exorcist 3? Oh, shout out Patrick Ewing. Hey, yo, 1990, New York Knicks. I mean, they hadn't quite made the finals yet at this point, but he's definitely balling out. Of course, the Georgetown run. He is an established, basketball sort of legend, even though it's sort of crossing different periods at that point. But again, that was more important because you actually played a couple of years. Oh, this guy's going crazy. That guy just spazzed out. That didn't look good. And, I was saying the lack of violence in some of these movies, but they get to throwing some of these dummies around, and you're like, okay, they're definitely dummies, but it's almost, it's more violent the way that dummy just, like, crashes into the wall, or the way it's just, like, getting, well, hey, what was I doing? Yeah. I was going to say getting slammed on the bed. Hey, yo, pause. But, what was the way it was spazzing out right there. Almost a little more intense. Like a real life person couldn't, I don't feel like quite spaz out that much. Maybe there is an actor. But you start getting, maybe that was a real person. Maybe it was so convincing that I thought it was a dummy. But I'm thinking it's like Ferris Bueller setup sort of situation. I don't know. But, again, Burrow is getting a lot of credit for winning one playoff game from Mahomes, but you could say that Jalen Hurts has outperformed him 2 times in a playoff game, and both of them were the Super Bowl, and again, one of them he actually did get the win in the game as well, too, in the Super Bowl. So, if Burrow gets, if Burrow's in the NFC, it's like, at what point do we just like, obviously the points make sense for the individual cases. But, I mean, the Super Bowl wins do matter, and you still have to win that extra playoff game regardless. I guess if you're a wild card or whatever. But, Hurts is still making his run through the NFC, and it was still a pretty decent NFC run. I mean, the Rams were not a easy team last year. That defense is really turning around. You still got Stafford as just a feisty playoff guy, and we'll see how the Stafford sort of defense timelines can match up this year. The Packers, good team, even though Jordan Love was hurt. And then the Commanders, maybe a little bit more of a fun story. Jaden Daniels playing well, too. But regardless, they really, of course, proved that they were the much better team in that game with the decisive win as well, and didn't necessarily let the Commanders keep it close. And then I feel like there probably was stats about that's got to be the most points scored in a conference championship Super Bowl combination. But 50, 55, and 40, you've got almost 100 points between 2 games. I mean, maybe it was the most points ever in a playoff run just in general for a team. And again, that's going to be so Saquon, the defensive line, the offensive line, blah, 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 blah. Nope, everybody refuses to give Jalen Hurts credit. But you know what? If my quarterback, I got to be honest, I'm signing up for the Jalen Hurts. If this is Jalen Hurts' career, the narratives of the seasons that he's going to have, I'm totally fine with that. Because you know what that means? It results in him playing well in the Super Bowl. And at the end of the day, if he's in the Super Bowl and he's playing well, that's totally fine with me if I'm a fan of a team. So some of these other guys and I guess, like Burrow as well, he's not necessarily fall apart in a playoff game type narrative. Again, for him, it's been more the teams not getting there. It's been more of a roster situation for him. But when you are looking again at like Lamar and Josh specifically, that is a part of it. Is they haven't quite had the full-on performances the same type of way that maybe, and again, the teams as well too. Hurts' team obviously much better, but Hurts has played really well. And I guess if you put Hurts in that that game against the Bills last year, that is a tough one, and you would assume that Josh Allen and Lamar on Philly would be as obviously statistically dominant as they are able to be on these other teams. Somebody just took down the It's a Wonderful Life poster and rewrote it in blood. Hey, yo. That's definitely a very scary move. But, again, Hurts has, even though maybe some of the regular season stuff throughout has had some football people questioning what his actual abilities are, if he's going to be a clutch postseason guy and a big game guy, and has been that way his entire career, then I'm totally okay with that. Or even just the potential of some other guys as well too. So I guess we can always adjust the ratings, but I'm just putting Jalen Hurts down as number 5. I don't know how you don't have Jalen Hurts in the top 5 or the top 10 at this point. I guess I haven't really seen a ton of QB rankings. Wait, does ESPN have one right here? Well, I guess we don't want to cheat, but AO. Where do they have Spencer Rattler? We don't want to. I guess, they're not going to talk us out of ranking Spencer Rattler too low. Ayo. But I feel like Hurts does have to be, again, because of this and it's where we're at in the league as well too, where the generations are kind of in that spot. Who is at the peak of their powers? The guys at the peak of their powers right now are the 3 guys that we've been mentioning as the big 3 of the league. The golden trio, I think is the phrase I'm looking for, the golden trio of the league. But Hurts is also kind of emerging into that tier as well. And then the other guys that you would have, of course, are going to be like Herbert and maybe like Tua age-wise, as guys from those I guess also Burrow's class, but guys from those ranges of draft classes. And Hurts is now, with the playoff success, elevating himself. I think even though he's not necessarily being in the conversation quite with some of these guys, I feel like his playoff success has to have him there. So for now, we'll put him 5. But I guess I'm already looking at the NFC East, so I'm like, okay, would I actually take Jalen Hurts over Jaden Daniels last year? Like, we flipped Jaden Daniels. So that is a tough one. I feel like Daniels is already 4. That's crazy, Chad. That's crazy. And that is tough first round. And to be honest, Daniel over Burrow, Chad? Whoa! So, Daniel's going to go take the CJ Stroud sort of spot as the instant impact rookie young guy that we all want. It's like, okay, we can't believe this guy's already the top 5 QB in the league. And he's going to take Burrow's spot as the best LSU quarterback in the league. Also, LSU, the best college for quarterbacks right now, currently in the NFL. You do have, I guess, Hurts is kind of a weird, you could say Baker and Hurts for Oklahoma, but then you do also have Hurts for Alabama. So, I think the rest of the Alabama not necessarily carrying up to that, but Baker and Hurts is a pretty good combo as well too. It's not necessarily, of course, Burrow and Daniels, but that is definitely pretty, it's above average. Again, Baker, he's not going to be too far down the list. I guess, spoiler alert, yeah, we all know Baker's pretty good. But what do we got? Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, and Bo Nix. And Justin Herbert? Okay, Bo Nix and Justin Herbert's not bad as well. You got Bo Nix, of course, transferring in. But USC, there's not a second USC guy. Jordan Love's from Utah. Of course, we got a Michigan starter now, McCarthy. Ayo. Shout out. Goff from Cal. But yeah, LSU is the school right now with two of the potential top 5 QBs in the league. But you imagine that Daniels behind that Eagles with the best version of the Eagles offensive line would be very scary as well too. Because that's one of the reasons that he was so impressive last year is his ability to play against the blitz and his ability to play against the pressure in those different types of scenarios. And again, their team is that team that was a lot more veteran and a lot more professional and, a lot more, I guess, however you want, whatever professional means. But, just like a lot more, again, guys that have been in the league for a while, know the processes. There's a veteran nature to the team, the coach, and the way the team is approaching the week-to-week stuff. That did obviously translate into success, AO. But it's still not necessarily the most powerful non-QB roster. And I guess I should have mentioned this as well too at the start. I guess if I don't remember if I did or not exactly, but we're not just ranking just the QBs tonight. The whole week will be NFL rank week. So tonight it will be just the QBs, but I meant to say the week will be the rank week. So next live stream we'll do like skills groups and then like defenders on Friday or something like that. But if we were to do, maybe I think at the end when we kind of get all the pieces together, what I was thinking, and I was thinking about this mainly from a Broncos standpoint as well too, because I was talking to my neighbor. Of course, he's a Broncos fan, and we're getting excited, and that is a big thing for the Broncos season right now. Is the sort of non-QB roster is one of the really strong ones in the NFL right now, and Bo Nix, of course, he's not necessarily too down bad in the NFL QB rankings. Had a really great rookie season. It has a great situation, like we're saying. But Daniels is definitely ascended, and I don't think Stroud is too far off. Like, again, Daniels really, the only benefit that Daniels has right now over Stroud, and I don't want to say the only benefit because he did make it to the conference championship game, and who knows? You play that game 10 times, maybe there is a game and a half where Jaden Daniels wins it. I don't know. But he does also have the benefit of just having the one season where, and again, Mahomes is kind of having this right now as well too. I guess he's been in the league kind of the same time as like Lamar and Josh Allen. But Jaden Daniels hasn't had that second season not lived up to the expectations because there was a real play style thing from Stroud. It wasn't just the team was kind of taking a step back. There was a play style thing that did feel a little bit different, and it did feel like his ability to, chat, is this the killer? Is this the villain guy? So wait, is this the guy that they're in a jail cell right now? Again, we got the Exorcist 3 in the background if it just randomly joined us and haven't got that from earlier. But they're at the jail cell now, and we've got like a Hannibal Lecter type guy bound up in the cell over here. Chat. This is so I'm just missing the explanation for what's going on as well too. But it's just such a creepy shot that we can't focus on the closed captioning of the dialogue. But so I don't think that there is as much separation right now skills wise maybe between Stroud and Daniels as people are saying, but I do think that some of the quickness at which Daniels processes is a little bit better than Stroud, where Stroud's a really great extender pause, like so is Daniels. But I think Daniels also does, like we're saying, have a quick game, quicker processing element to it that does project him to, of course, going forward, that's just a thing that you'd want to have as well too. But right now, I think maybe makes you a little safer with some of your play calling stuff that you can do. And he's not, and Stroud is Slowick gone as well. I don't remember if they lost Slowick or not from this past year because I don't think he's a head coach, is he? I know, of course, his name has been in conversations, but did he actually get a job this year? He's the passing game coordinator in Miami. senior passing game coordinator. He's ready to step right in for Mike McDaniels in week 9. Hey, yo, Chet. Bobby Slowick's going to be interim coach for the Dolphins in a couple of weeks. But, yeah, there will be some mix-up in their schemes anyways. So we'll see what that happens. And their weapons are, though, really good. Would maybe rather have their weapons than Washington's weapons. But at this point, I would still probably think that Stroud has the upside to be a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts at this point from some of the skill talent stuff. But again, with what Hurts has accomplished, I would still have to give him the benefit of the doubt at this point. But it's difficult not to imagine Daniels in some of these slightly better rosters as well too, that he wouldn't have equal success as some of these top guys with what we saw from him in the last season. So Stroud is not actually our number 6, is he? I don't know. But here, wait, let me mute this page real quick because I'm gonna log in, get these ads out of here. I don't know why I thought StatHead did a good job of logging us in, but apparently not this time. So here, let me get this password typed out real quick. Hopefully I'm not just like subconsciously saying it like there's like a lip reader that's like he's mouthing it as he's typing it out. It's like, oh, okay, you're very subtle with how you keep your password safe. But okay, and I don't even remember it as well too. Hey, yo, chat, what's going on? Do I have cap locks on, or did I put like an exclamation point in here that I don't remember, or something like that? But otherwise, we're just running it with ads. It is what it is. Oh, okay, we are locked in and ready to go. And I guess you wouldn't have seen I guess you probably would still see the keys versus the page. So it is what it is. But let's see here. We got Philly. I don't even remember if we meant to click into Philly. I think we were just looking at who is next in the rankings as well. But if we're projecting upside, and the thing is, Stroud can get back to where he was at, but then you would expect him, of course, to get better from that as well too. So from like we're saying, at one point he was in that mix of, is he a top 5 quarterback in the league right now, the way he's facing some of this blitz stuff. And if he is back to that level, it's like, okay, top 5, top 6, top 7, whatever. But if he starts to even, year 3 improve on that as well too, then he's going to continue to be right there for ascending up as some of the best quarterbacks in the league. This is where, and I think that we've now established that there is probably a definite drop-off. So it is probably got to be Stroud just because of the way that we're kind of hesitant to think of another next obvious name. Because this is where it also becomes of how are we building this list as well too. Are we valuing the guys that we think if they are healthy they could be great at the end of the season? So Stafford would be one where I feel like still the best version of Stafford is as great for a game as maybe any quarterback in the league if he needs to get there. But him now over the course of a season does start to continue to add up and become a real question mark. And who else becomes an interesting guy in this point of the list as well too? And a guy we should have mentioned earlier for who was kind of entering that prime age of their career. But this could be a really interesting Kyler Murray season. Like Kyler Murray, of course, could be a quarterback that gets back in the top end of the top 10 type list. Because again, I think it's been some names like this is maybe where you start like thinking again like Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, some of the who's winning, of course, double-digit teen type games over the last couple of years in the regular seasons. But Kyler with the injury stuff and last year a little up and down, not quite able to totally get there. But as they continue to build up the offense, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s jacked. You got Trey McBride as well too, and kind of a full takeover at the tight end. You're bringing in the continued offensive line improvement as well too. Gannon in his second year is going to be with what seemed like actually to turn out to be a pretty good coaching hire. Hopefully he continues to get better, and that continues to seem like it would work out. But that is a two-way sort of dynamic player that has the potential to really rise up this list. And again, this is the point of the list as well too, where I think, and it is, we built this list at this point, like we're saying, kind of based solely on team success as well too. But this is where it does start to become the team success does start to influence the standing of the player as well at this point, because I could really start talking myself into Kyler. I could also start talking myself into Baker though as well too, but he is a little heat checky. Jordan Love is a little heat checky as well. I don't know who else is sort of locking in that same type of confidence, because we did write Burrow down as well too. So his name is accounted for already. So I wouldn't necessarily take Kyler over Stroud, but I could see myself taking Kyler over the other names that are left at some point. Justin Herbert, just from a talent standpoint, I feel like we have to just write his name down. We can, move him around as need be. Is he in the top 10? Because I still do value what Dak does as well too. To have a guy that is that skilled in the pre-snap stuff and can give you that element. And it's not even just that he is, specifically skilled in that, even though that is a valuable part of a game for the quarterback. It's that is sort of a lost art in the quarterbacking thing right now. And maybe again, as this tier of guys sort of continues to develop the IQ, like maybe Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar maybe doing even more of that stuff. Because again, even Mahomes is not necessarily a same sort of check the plays type guy the same way that other quarterbacks have been in the past, because of just these guys' abilities to create after the snap. Again, that's what it has been and I guess I've never even really thought about that up until right now, but the quarterback creation before this was pre-snap, and now it's really post-snap as well. So Dak gives you that pre-snap creation. It is kind of a unique skill set. Jordan Love is getting the hype train for sure, and this is maybe where we have to start. Are we just going to start ranking coaches as well besides quarterbacks? Because with the Chargers, you're getting Harbaugh, so you're feeling like Harbaugh is going to at least provide a good situation in some degrees for Herbert to be successful. But LaFleur has basically had a really great stats quarterback every year, and I'm not, obviously he's had Rodgers and Jordan Love, so he's had really talented prospects. But he had Rodgers at a different point of his career, and Jordan Love's not necessarily an Aaron Rodgers level talent. The peak version of Aaron Rodgers is obviously, one of the best quarterbacks, most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. But he has been able to maximize production and even won Aaron Rodgers a couple of MVPs as well too. And again, I do feel like Jordan Love is a little bit heat checky in that type of way. He's a very talented quarterback, and he can have stretches where he's playing good for 1 to 2 months for sure. But I still wonder about his ability in like a bad game. If he was having a bad game, but then, him turning around in a fourth quarter type situation, I'm still a little iffy on that type of stuff from him. But again, he is, when he's cooking, he is one of the more fun quarterbacks, and he can really be dynamic and finding a lot of different receivers as well too at different times. But the passing offense for the Packers, I guess, is always, and touchdowns specifically as well too. You've had them be top 5 3 times, and then top 10 almost 2 other times as well too. 10th last year. I guess yards a little bit lower than I was thinking in attempts, but again, there's been an efficiency, I guess, with the passing game that he's been able to manufacture. And again, you can see him getting easy looks for Jordan Love that kind of allow him to get a little maybe heat checky at times. But he probably will have like a 3-game stretch this year where it's not great. But then he'll also probably have like a 4 or 5-game stretch this year where he's arguably third in MVP voting. And it's like Jordan Love's just absolutely going crazy. So I do feel like because of LaFleur as well, and at this point, with his established run as the Packers head coach and creating positive offenses, I still am a little, I'm not necessarily like calling him again best coach in the league or whatever. I don't necessarily know, just in my personal confidence rankings of LaFleur. I know maybe the Rodgers stuff kind of was messing with me a little bit back in the day. So I don't know if where my lack of confidence really lies, I guess, from that time. But as of right now, we'll have to see how that continues to bear out with him having Jordan Love as the quarterback position. But you would imagine that he would be one of the most productive quarterbacks in the league this year, and the Packers could be good. I guess we'll have to dive back into their defense as well, too, and see what we get from there. Because offensively, LaFleur versus Harbaugh, even though Harbaugh, the culture stuff has been pretty good. Do we have to go Jordan Love over Kyler and Herbert? I still feel like, oh, Chad, is this Priest about to eat it? What's happening? And I need to see the reveal here. The cutting has been really good in this movie, I gotta say. I don't know. Who directed The Exorcist 3? Hey, yo. Shout out. I can't believe we didn't get a name. There is a name on the poster for it, so I don't know if that was like an author or the director. Friedkin directed The Exorcist 1. So wait here. Let me just go Exorcist 2. Is that also Friedkin? John Boormar. Writers William Goldhart. So number 3 was William Peter Blatty, based on the novel Legion, by William Peter Blatty, I guess, as well too. Did he do other? Oh, he actually wrote The Exorcist, so he didn't direct it, but he wrote the original one, but then directed the third one. So I guess I don't know if he used some of the influences from the first one. Here, when did he direct his first movie? Oh, he directed his only 3 movies. The Ninth Configuration in 1980, and The Exorcist in 1990, and then The Exorcist 3 in 1990, and then Exorcist 3 Legion, which is the director's cut, I guess, of Exorcist 3. So he basically just released those 2 movies, as well as the Ninth Configuration and Exorcist movie, or just another version of a horror movie that he made. I don't know. But with the way that this one is going, this might be our second watch, chat, in the horror movie sort of path we start down, because this one is also on Tubi as well too. But there has been some fun cut away from the sort of tension into the story that's going on as well. But I'm in a little bit of a prove it season for Jordan Love. Prove it first couple of games, just a tad as well. And for some reason, maybe I am projecting some Kyler bias as well. So we go CJ Stroud, Kyler, then Jordan Love, then Justin Herbert for now. Shout out, of course, again, LaFleur and the system is great. So is this the time to have a Dak Prescott in the rankings, chat, to kind of put Dak Prescott's name down? And in some ways, I guess the argument for him and Herbert's not too far off as well. Again, Dak is at least feels like getting to some playoff games in some seasons. Herbert's obviously with Staley had a little bit of a trouble getting there as well. Unfortunately, lost in the wild card game this past year. But Dak being, the 30-plus thing is definitely a factor for sure. Just in terms of, you would assume that Justin Herbert still got some levels to go up as well, too. Him still at the prime years of his career. So I guess, we already have Herbert's name on the list. If we went Dak Prescott after that, is that the top 10 quarterbacks in the league? So no Jared Goff. I guess we're wrong, chat, right away to start. Oh, 11. So no Jared Goff in the top 10. That's kind of a shame, and I feel like we're just acting like we can't correct it here for some reason. I just feel like the Ben Johnson thing is obviously a question mark for sure. Who is their offensive coordinator right now? Let's see if we can get a name on their current guy. Did they promote from within? Was it like a quarterback coach that they made the offensive coordinator? Dan Campbell's not calling plays. I don't think that's his specialty at this point. John Morton, Kelvin Shepard, defensive coordinator, is interesting as well too. 1 year as the offensive coordinator in the Jets, 2017. Had a run as offensive assistant for the Raiders in the early 2000s. College at USC in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Then went to the 49ers in the 2010s, so out on the West Coast. San Francisco 2 years, the Jets, Raiders, Lions, Broncos. And then back to the Lions. Also, he was the Broncos passing game coordinator last year. So he has worked with, I guess in general, worked with Gruden, Sean Payton, Dan Campbell. You know, we got to give him his respect now as a good head coach for sure. Todd Bowles. Ayo, shout out Norv Turner. So has definitely worked for some pretty good offensive minds over the years. Hopefully he's picked up a good thing or two, but he definitely is unproven. And, you know, was that a trade? We'll trade you our defensive coordinator as your head coach for you, just like some random guys off the court. I don't know. But Calvin Shepard as the defensive coordinator is fun as well, too. His first year as defensive coordinator, and this was a promotion from within. So I do like this. You could definitely see him carrying over a lot of the same stuff that Aaron Glenn brought to the table, but also being promoted this quickly as well, too. I mean, literally 5 seasons in the NFL as a coach, and he's a defensive coordinator, which means that, you know, there's a chance could Calvin Shepard be a head coach in like 2 seasons. Like, again, we don't know how good his tenure is going to be, but are we talking 7 years of Calvin, you know, from player to head coach would be kind of a fun rise for an unexpected player for sure. But that the defensive back, I'm pretty sure he was a defensive back, right? Shout out. Or was he a middle linebacker? Ayo, so I guess he's coaching linebackers. That would make sense. But just that rise from defensive player, like we're saying, to the defensive sort of energy guy, the same way kind of Glenn was as well, too, to the leader of the defense from the coaching standpoint, is fun. So we'll see how Morton is able to do with Goff. And Goff, of course, has had the benefit of not just working with Ben Johnson, but working with Sean McVay as well, too. So this is just a big year for Goff in terms of, I think, proving his just, you know, his individual worth. I feel like at some point you just go, like, for anybody, you know, at what point do I stop proving my worth? I feel like, you know, he went to Detroit, he's won some games. You know, he's obviously got a mission to accomplish in Detroit just in general. But him as a good QB, he's probably felt like he's done enough. But still, again, with that kind of infrastructure, it's almost like you have to be good when Sean McVay is your head coach. So are we taking Goff over Stroud? I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I feel like Lions fans would want, for Jared Goff's sake, to not do that trade. They got the hypothetical version of that trade and would just say no and support their guy. But realistically, you probably are making that, even not from a long-term standpoint, just from this year. Again, even with the newness of the systems, Stroud's ability to kind of improvise, the athleticism, the movement, does give him a little bit of advantage as well, too. So maybe the Lions would legitimately think about, like, I don't know, Kyler for Goff would get interesting. I mean, Jordan Love for Goff would get interesting at that point, but Love's not, like, crazy mobile as well, too. But, so Herbert for Goff, I don't know. But we have to give him his respect for having multiple great playoff runs with, of course, a couple of different franchises at this point. So I do feel good about him being in the top 8 like that. I feel like top 10, he does need to be going into the season established as a top 10 quarterback. Again, we'll see if he can continue to play like that with the change of coaching and the schematics, stuff like that. But as of right now, he has definitely accomplished that. And maybe Baker has accomplished that as well too at this point. So Baker is definitely in the mix to be the next name. I mean, he might be the obvious next name we have to put down at this point. Yeah, I think it is. It's Baker Mayfield. So Baker, and then once again, I guess Baker over Kyler, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, or Dak Prescott is the argument at this point. Or over Jared Goff, would the Lions fans trade Goff for Baker? There is a weird sort of leadership, rally the troops, energizing thing that he can bring to a lineup. And he does have a craziness to him that Goff, it does feel like with Baker, the craziness is part of the experiment. And not just the craziness, I'm saying like some of the play stuff with some of the crazy plays is part of the experience. And I'm not saying Goff is necessarily heat checky the same way I was saying like Jordan Love is, but again, you sort of expect a clean game from Jared Goff, and you kind of are game planning your way like that in a way. So if you start having the Jared Goff turnovers and the bad plays and things like that, it just starts getting you behind the eight ball, I think, a little bit more than a Baker thing does, because that is just sort of, I think, the chaotic energy of a Baker Mayfield game, is he's going to have 3 plays, and sometimes all 3 of them are going to be turnovers, and sometimes 2 of them are going to be dropped. And he's also going to have 3 plays where he scrambled and extended that 3rd down right there, and then hit that guy down the sideline, and then changed the play back of the end zone, found the guy, he's wide open. I mean, he did hit some pretty crazy throws in some crazy plays in the playoffs, with helping the Bucs get there as well too. So his established run does have to potentially put him over Kyler as well, because I feel like you're probably more confident in his health as well too over Kyler and even Jordan Love at this point. I don't think Jordan Love has the same sort of miss game type of health thing that maybe Kyler does, but he'll get the health thing where it's like, oh well, now we have to worry about Jordan Love playing hurt, how's that affecting his performance, all that different stuff. I honestly feel like, what does PFF say? Is this the first time we have to phone a friend? Does PFF have Baker dramatically better than Goff? And there's a scene right now between a guy in a prison and this one of the cops. So we got the intense. Somebody's speaking through this guy. Gemini. Wait, so is that guy the Gemini, or is it the spirit of the Gemini guy? And is this the scary scene? I don't think this is a scary scene, but I just was lost there for a second. I don't even know how long I didn't talk for. I think it might have been half a second, but it could have been 5 minutes. I was just locked in. Again, beautifully shot. This is a great. We got the windows with the split light on each of the characters. This is what happens when the movie is scary. We have to start looking at the cinematography and be like, oh, look what's going on in the background. The lights are cool, and the window is looking. I've never seen a window tilted that way before, but. And I'm not necessarily certain who this old guy actor is as well too, but he's had a couple of fun jump scare type scenes that have been, top notch horror movie acting. Oh, what's this singing? I feel like this is some Paul. Did Paul Dano watch this scene when he filmed the Batman scene at the end of where he's in the prison? And he's like, oh no, it wasn't supposed to be this way. I don't really know how I feel about that scene. I have to watch that one a couple more times. But this is a fun sort of hero-villain type interaction. So again, I don't know how this guy's appeared in other Exorcist movies or not. But apparently the Gemini Killer, still very much around at this point. But either way, here we were looking for Tampa versus Goff versus Baker. What do the advanced stats have them listed at here? Those would be guys that you would assume would be kind of closely ranked. But if there is a dramatic difference, that definitely would help. I guess you could say Baker does have... I think the weapons are arguable, though, in a way, where Amon-Ra might be the best single receiver, but maybe the depth of Tampa is really good, and they added as well too this year with drafting another receiver too. So they have Baker at 6. Ooh, 6th best QB in the league. Yeah, see, I'm not saying that that's like 100% accurate, but I'm not saying it's totally wrong either at this point. Definitely closer to being right than not. So does that mean Jared Goff is 5 or 7 or 16th? So it is a bit of a difference. So I guess according to the advanced stats, we got to go Baker over Goff, chat. So I guess, and again, we got Baker closely rated to that as well too. We got him 8th versus kind of a betting. How do you spell Mayfield, chat? Ayo, there we go. Versus kind of like betting on CJ Stroud's upside, because I don't think Stroud would have been a top 6 PFF quarterback last year. I guess we can double check that at this point as well too, just to see how far off we are on that one and just see how far. Oh, so he was 14th. So to be honest, that feels still pretty encouraging from where he was at last year. If this is the worst version of Stroud in the NFL, is the 14th best quarterback in the league, I mean, that's definitely not too bad. And then let me see, who else did I want to look at here? Hurts? Yeah, here. Let me see what they have going on for Hurts, because you could see them having him rated like 20th. It's like, oh, he hasn't anything on the advanced stats that has been like marked good. But again, he's always making plays. Oh, and they have him at 12th. So they do have him above Stroud as well too. Shout out. So we have him at 6. Hey, they have him at 12th. It's crazy. But Goff at 9, and then Baker at 8, Stroud at 7. I do feel good about the top 9. Who is the 10th best quarterback in the league, Chad? Hey, yo. Let me see if there's anybody else that I would be leaving off in terms of competing for this tier of guys. We don't think Geno is a case to be the 10th best quarterback in the league, potentially. It's definitely too soon for Penix at this point. I don't know if it's going to be another guy in the AFC South. Unless it's Purdy. Purdy is the 10th best quarterback in the league. So Purdy versus Kyler, Love, Herbert, and Dak. Well, Purdy and Dak is an interesting one because, again, with Dak's playoff resume, and Purdy actually has had some decent playoff moments as well. I don't know if you would necessarily say that. I do think Dak is more valuable for a regular season, sort of raising the baseline. Like, again, with him sort of being able to check out some plays and being able to do a little bit more on his own, he can maybe raise the level of a team a little bit more than Purdy. But I do think that Purdy is equally consistent and productive in as big of moments as Dak is as well too, in as good of an offense as Dak could be. I do think Kyler is maybe even just like basically just more dynamic Purdy. I don't know if that's a good, a fair comp or not at this point. And I don't know if it's fair to say that Purdy is more consistent than Jordan Love either, but he has had a few more. He had a good playoff run his rookie season, compared to Love is still kind of looking for that run. And then, like we're saying, Herbert is not really competing in that as well. So that's tough. This honestly might have to make Matt LaFleur led quarterback the best quarterback in the 10th best quarterback in the league, because I guess from a coaching standpoint, we're looking at, Sean Payton with Bo Nix would be if the next best probably coaching situation left on the board. Because again, like Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, all these top guys, Dan Campbell, they're all off the board. McVay, I guess we were going Stafford with McVay. So Stafford, I guess, out of the top 10 is what we're kind of saying here. Stafford out of the top 10. So who was the guy that we were saying? Purdy or I'm already forgetting the other names. Chat. Ayo, it is what it is. I think I said not Geno was the thing. Not disrespectfully. I think he's probably maybe closer, but just not quite fully in the arguments the same type of way. So it's got to be either Jordan Love or Purdy to kind of mix the situation with the talent and some of the consistency as well too. So yeah, shout out. I guess Jordan Love is, or I guess Stafford was the other guy that we were saying. Here, what was Stafford's like last month of the season? And I know that he will be, I guess whatever kind of reset going into the season. Who knows how he's able to ride that out, and then how healthy he's able to be in the playoffs. But the fact they did push the Eagles is important, I think, for their defense as well. Because again, as everybody is so young, and they're returning everybody, rookie contracts, all the different stuff. But again, that just means they're able to bring everybody back. Hopefully everybody gets a year better. I mean, Verse really looks like he's going to be, a stud defensive leader in a real impactful type of way. And then they have all the depth around him as well, too, in the rest of the defensive line. But offensively, how could they compete? I mean, Puka, still top guy for sure. But he did miss the last game of the season. I don't know if that was they were secured in the playoffs in their spot sort of thing. I think it was. Carson Wentz was the starter for that one, I believe. But he did throw for less than 200 yards in each of the last 3 games. 4 of the last 5. And really he had 300 yards 3 times all year, but in the first game and then in the second to last game, or later in the year, I guess 2 times all year. Hey, yo. So still highly productive, and enough times where he's, 270. Like this stretch here, I mean, again, just what do we want to say to prove our point? Because this stretch in the middle of the season, he's 280 to basically 290, almost 300 each of these 4 games. So October to November-ish, he's kind of good. 103 quarterback rating, 291 a game, 10 touchdowns, 3 picks. And was actually kind of not as interception heavy toward the end of the year as well, too. 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. Only 200 yards a game, though, at that time. Still a 97 QB rating. So I would still, for next year... Ooh, Goff versus Stafford is a tough one. I actually do feel confident about Baker now about that. I feel good about that. Baker over Goff, Baker over Stafford. That feels... If that was my quarterback and those were my 3 choices, I would feel very good about that. So, Goff over Stafford is a tricky one to try to project and think if he could be a higher standing at the end of the season than Stafford, especially with, like we're saying, the entire defense for the Rams is maybe a little bit more. The step up from year to year, the roster improvement is maybe more likely there, which is the player growth. But the Lions team and roster in general could be a slightly better roster than the Rams. And Goff just being a younger guy, like we're saying, health, more reliable. Stafford, he's got the health thing, but just the age thing as well, too, is something you have to at least be notable of if you were bringing him in for a team. So I don't know if we could put Stafford over Kyler Love, but Stafford actually, maybe he moves down the list and goes over Herbert, and then it's Kyler, Jordan Love, Matt Stafford. So then that kind of does leave Kyler as the continued number 1 contender for the 10th best quarterback in the league. Hey, yo, chat. It's a hot conversation right now on what's this guy's name? Matt Stafford. There we go. Hey, yo. Shout out. A hot conversation right now on the REMINGTOM Pod. We are having a good time. The movie is still going. I guess the pants are dry, chat. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But we are going to take a quick break. We're going to continue to work through the playoff ranking or quarterback rankings and figure out who is the 10th best quarterback in the league. A question we actually need answered. And we're going to see if the Exorcist is the most scariest thing that's ever happened right after this, chat. Don't go anywhere. right, chat, we are back. I think I paused this Exorcist movie right on what could be this scary scene. We're right about that could use the scariest scene in the movie time slot wise. I'm actually going to reset this a little bit to go back, so that way I'm not just like picking up in the middle of what could potentially be a jump scare here. So let me go back to like 110-ish exactly. That would probably be a little plenty from where I'm at right now. So I guess if you guys are following along on the Pluto timeline right now at any point, we are at currently 110, 110, 107, 110, 108. We got the inspector guy looking through like a little chain link something situation, picking up a book, some sort of vent. I guess it's probably a Bible, but it could be, I guess, some other kind of religious text as well too. I guess it doesn't say the Holy Bible on the front of it or some version of that, but so it could be some kind of spell sort of counter thing. Oh, is he reading a verse? Okay, it could just be some sort of different label, I guess, on the front. I can't really read what the book is. I mean, make no mistake, I guess you're going to need a Bible if there's an exorcism at some point. Chapter 11, right for exorcism. Oh, some type of exorcist book? Oh, so that's what. So they got to exorcist the. So is the Gemini killer a possessed guy then? And then, they keep constantly getting possessed with these same traits, and then these other priests constantly have to kick him out. I don't know, but he is. It looks like there's a couple separate priests. One of these is giving off some Rodney Dangerfield vibes. So I don't hear. Quickly, let's go to the cast of this movie, real fast. We don't know who the top 10 quarterbacks in the league are. Chat. It is what it is. Mahomes is just going to win the AFC again this year anyways. But for the cast of Exorcist, Exorcist, let's see here if I can get it right. 3 by our guy William Peter Blatty. Oh, Chad, here we go. I'm looking up at the wrong time. Somebody's wandering through. This is definitely a possessed person. Good night. She's like, good night, Julie dearest. Yes, it's very late. He's reading the Exorcist book. So he's gonna have to. Is he gonna have to like perform this Exorcist right after reading the rules for it? I mean, hey, I'm gonna say if you're gonna have to perform an exorcism. Uh-oh, chat. There's some growling now going on. Oh, it just cut to a commercial. Hey, yo, Pluto, the intensity. Hopefully, I didn't just kill the drama buildup. But hey, it's only a 1 of 1. But if you're gonna have to perform an exorcism, at least having to perform it after you read about it is a good thing compared to, well, hey, I got this book or I found out where the book's located. Oh man, if only I just had a couple more seconds to go grab that book. But let's see here if we can get a name to a face. Oh, chat, don't look away. That was the plot. Okay, we don't see the ending. Yeah, there's that guy. Oh, Pat Ewing as the Angel of Death. Hey, yo, I think it was more maybe like in a play or something. I don't know what was going on there. But, or just their, a reference to the finger roll a little bit that eliminated from the plays. But is it George C. Scott, the main guy? Yeah, I guess older George C. Scott gives off older Rodney Dangerfield vibes. So they cut away now from the guy in the living room. That little girl's definitely messed up for sure. You're not just like wandering, shuffling through a kitchen late at night, not grabbing a snack or something else is definitely, possession at this point. But is our guy going to get an escape? Hey, yo, chat, why was this guy not making more films? I guess, we don't need to go into necessarily the, whatchamacallit, the Wikipedia, just like the life story of the creator and see what happened. But we could... I guess I wonder, but just the author stuff, if that's why his focus, he didn't go into necessarily making all of the films. But the other guy, I guess the father guy, is Ed Flanders as well too. So I guess I was saying two priests, but 2 older guys is what I was thinking. Oh, she just got scared about something. I don't know if she just didn't see anything or did see something. Uh-oh, Chad, here's the reveal. The door is being pushed open. What is happening? She sees nothing, so we're gonna get scared, Chad. This is crazy. Yikes! We haven't even got to Anthony Richardson's ranking yet. We're already terrified. Oh no, chat.
We haven't even got to the fact that there's just going to be 4 Colts quarterbacks at the bottom of the list. Yikes. Chat, I don't know what to say. Otherwise, I'm going to just... I can't look away because then that's going to miss the point. Ice cracking? What's going on? Oh, chat, the ice is moving around. The nurse, you got to move, chat. You got to run. This is not good. That ice is going to get you. There's the guy, chat. How did she not see him? Is that bed just... Has that been there the whole time? Hey, yo. Why do they have, like, the patients in bunk bed style railings up on the side? That's not even how a hospital bed is built. What's going on here, chat? Okay, so we know that now something bad is actually... She's definitely going to die now because she just escaped what was definitely certain death in that room. I mean, obviously, there was really no threat in that room, but she's being lured somewhere. I wish we would have paid more attention to what the forced sleep possession is that's going on here. Because it would make more sense about, you know, what is exactly potentially the scary thing here as well. We now get the security card. We're back in on this shot in the hallway as well, too. Which is kind of fun, you know, going back to the same establishing shot. And not just, you know, she's back out in the desk into the same area. But... kind of the same viewpoint. We get to, you know, we've added a character. Oh, now we're cutting away just in time for the action. Room 411. So is that the room that this guy has been in the whole time? The grinding is still going, chat. Hey, yo. Here we go. Oh, you were 1 for 1 in making escapes in patient rooms tonight from hearing creepy noises. Maybe you get the... Is that not the security guard standing right there? Maybe you get him to go with you? Jingling the keys. I mean, again, he is right there, so maybe there is a safety. But he's reading the book. He's unprepared. Oh, he's leaving. Don't leave now. Where are you going? How convenient the security guard just happens to walk away. That's definitely the forces of evil at work, chat. It is what it is. I mean, if anything, that security guard, we know security guards outside of Paul Blart have really done nothing. What does that say for security guards in movies that Paul Blart might be legitimately the #1 security guard? Because I cannot think of a time that a security guard has accomplished anything. And yep, there it is, chat. Something just stabbed her in the back of the head or something with I don't know, something just wandered out of that room. Which, again, they had built it up so much to the point that you knew it was inevitable at that time. But definitely got good music drop there. My heart's racing right now, chat. It is what it is. So we have to get back into the QB list. Oh, Jason Miller, is this the bad guy? Patient X. Charles Powell as a body double for... Charles Powell as a body double for Jason during Exorcism Climax. Ayo, pause! So I guess, you know, slight spoiler alert, there will be an exorcism in The Exorcist 3. I guess, again, I was kind of expecting that it would build up to all that. All of her vital organs were removed? Oh, and then the killer stuffed her body with what? With other materials and sewed her back up. Oh, so is that classic Gemini stuff? Ew, chat. That's crazy. Do we get a list of what those were? Catholic... Oh, chat. This is it. This is the reveal. He knows they're back. This nurse is possessed. I feel like... I mean, I don't know, chat. Cancel me now. I guess I've said every woman in this movie is possessed. But there's just a vibe, and it is the 80s. I don't know what they were, you know, making. Oh, chat, they got the other doctor. Is he gone? Overdose? We got a little syringe situation. Chat, how much time do we have left in this movie? I don't mean to just do play-by-play, but holy cow, this is where we're going to... I mean, this is obviously, again, the intenseness of it is definitely starting to ramp up. So I guess I guess he's gonna at some point go crazy in the hospital. They're gonna have to perform this exorcism in his room, maybe, or he breaks out of the room, because again, like Conjuring, you're kind of contained to the house. You know the spirits in the house. They're back in the house with the possession, and it kind of the build up to the why you would need an exorcism would make sense. So again, I guess I don't know how this guy got there in the first place. Oh, wait a second. So there's another guy listed here as the Gemini killer, and there's this guy as Patient X. Uh-oh, Chad, now we're spoiling it by looking at the cast. And, oh, now there's Nurse X. Nurse X is definitely Definitely one of the possessed people. Wait, so is the daughter on here? Where's the daughter? I guess she hasn't been brought back up. But maybe that's maybe there's maybe it's an exorcism on the daughter, Chad. The final thing. Samuel L's in this movie? Chad, I didn't even notice when he popped up? Blind Dream Man? Samuel L's in a dream in this movie? Of course he's in this movie. Samuel L. I feel like you can't even go to his acting credits to get a representation of every movie he's in. He's just literally in every movie. Shout out. I mean, this movie's just a beloved movie, and I'm probably, we're rewatching now. I gotta figure out where Sam Jackson's at in the dream sequence at some point later on. I mean, we just randomly looked up when Pat Ewing was in the movie, so I can't believe we didn't randomly look up when Sam Jackson was in the movie as well. Oh, and somebody already tried an exorcism. I don't know if that's a reference to an earlier movie. You know, you could see a franchise making those sort of connections as well too. But in terms of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, Chad, Ayo, is Kyler going to be a top 10? So this does feel, I guess, very current is the point. And maybe the point for 25, 26. But this does feel, again, a very much a representation of last year. If you want to reorder the top 3 in some sort of way with the regular season stuff, Lamar had the best regular season. Josh Allen had some of the best individual in the playoffs. Pat Mahomes won the AFC. Like, you know, however you want to kind of... But this is still, like, kind of the names. I guess it would be... So the new guys would be Stroud, probably be re-emerging as a top 10 QB. And then if we made Kyler Murray a top 10 QB, the Jason Miller's going crazy right now, chat. Hey, yo! Jason Miller's rivaling any Al Pacino scene right now. The yelling and the red face is 10 out of 10. Jesus, chat. Somebody just start performing the exorcism right now. If the priest is... I don't need to even finish the monologue. You know, I get it's riveting, and you're like, let him cook, maybe? But do you have to just start reading the verses? You have to just start going, Chad. I don't know, the runtime of the movie, he's like, the director told me I have to let him go for this scene. But the lieutenant... And Chad's thunderstorming right now. I don't know if we summoned this in with the movie, but this is not good. Chat, this is not good. This is not Poltergeist is the movie with the curse, right? I don't even know if we can watch that one. This movie I thought was just scary. I didn't know it had thunderstorms associated with it as well. Chat, I'd have been long gone. Long gone. I actually probably wouldn't even have been in the room, to be honest, but you know, at this point maybe he's felt like I've lived my career as a cop. I'm going to go for some of these, you know, once in a lifetime sort of situations. I got Hannibal Lecter here on our mind. I guess, you know, Hannibal Lecter's in the 90s. But Jesus, and Hannibal Lecter, of course, I feel like a little bit, and you know, I guess he is possessed. I guess he's not necessarily like outright possessed exorcism in Silence of the Lambs. If I'm not mistaken, again, we don't watch horror movies, so we'd have to go back and definitely revisit that one. It's been a long time for that one. But, geez, chat, Jason Miller, I mean, I don't even know what just happened. That was crazy. But, and then just to cut away to, who's this, what was that guy's name again? For the main cop, George Scott. Just to cut away to George Scott, just looking kind of like, okay, you're definitely going a little bit crazy right now. So I don't know, who's going to be the Jason Miller, this guy just goes absolutely crazy for the entire season performer? I guess Kyler, see the thing is, it feels like all those guys are predictable. I guess which one is, of course, the prediction. Maybe it's all these guys, and then Baker takes a step back this year. Hurts could take a step. The Eagles could have a little bit of a, you know, are they a lock to just like, oh, are they going to be a dynasty level team? They're obviously really talented, but also they kind of do have a history of that, where the quick turnovers and Howie Roseman changing the pieces in and out, and it feels like the swappability and Howie Roseman messing with the team is kind of the funness of the Eagles in a way. And I you know, at some point it's obviously too much where it's just like, okay, every move they make, I guess, is just the best move that's ever been made in the NFL. And it's, you know, there was like a corner that they signed who was really good. I've definitely like seen him on Pro Football, like, you know, some of the stats and stuff, and he's definitely a really good QB performer for sure. Or his cornerback performer. But it's just like, you know, the Eagles get this guy with the 5th round pick. This is like a great football move. This guy's going to be an all-pro at corner. Maybe definitely so, again, in that Eagles defense. but maybe them having kind of the slight ups and downs. Again, maybe it's like it's not they're going to be a 4-win team, but are they going to be a 9-10 win team instead of a 13-14 win team this year? Lock it in, best team ever going to the Super Bowl. I just don't know. So again, I kind of trust Hurts maybe more so than maybe even some players as well too. But who is, I guess, the random? Anthony Richardson is the guy that randomly ascends to kind of a top 10 as well too. So do we just like make it's not even the case for the own guy in the individual rankings, but it's like the case for the highest end version of the season. Not to say that it just makes you the 10th best quarterback exactly, but again, to kind of get who could break into that list. Like Tua with the injuries, I don't know if he gets there in quite the same way. I don't know if Cleveland's going to have that type of quarterback situation. So I guess, Geno and Bo Nix, like the best version of Geno, the best version of Bo Nix as a top 10 quarterback in the league this year. That's interesting, Chad. Penix is interesting as well, for sure. And then, if we want to get hyped up about McCarthy, and we just keep leaving off Brock Purdy as well, too. So I'm going to write Brock Purdy's name down just so we don't forget it as well. Brock Purdy over Stafford, over Herbert. See, the individual talent gets crazy. You start switching these guys out to Shanahan and the Niners, and you assume that that's just, up there with the best situation these guys have ever been in as well, too. And I would be as pro Purdy with anybody with his playoff success, and his ability to kind of, again, maybe take a little bit more control of the offense as well compared to just doing some of the Shanahan scripting stuff. So in that sense, I almost want to flip Stafford over Love and then go Purdy over Love at that point. But again, I feel like just the individual, you just would want to take the gamble with Jordan Love next season. But Purdy has produced in the playoffs as well too. So sorry, I mean, like we said, we can move him around. So we'll just put Purdy right below Herbert for now, below Stafford, Love, Herbert, in that kind of tier of guys is kind of a fun tier for sure. And we could definitely shuffle those guys around. And then I guess here we'll make the next tier as well. But I don't know if Geno is necessarily in a totally different tier than Dak Prescott at this point. Okay, so wait, he did just say he is the Gemini? Hey, yo, Chad. Hey, yo. So what does that mean? Does that mean he's breaking out? Does that mean that they've been just, again, speaking through this guy this whole time, or he was the Gemini? We're missing out, Chad. We're just going to go back. We will go back and just read the plot of the movie and collect all the pieces. It's like, okay, what did that scary scene mean? What did that scary scene mean? And then actually what happened. I mean, George Scott's literally just leaning up against the wall, not even looking at the guy at this point. Kind of stunned that, he might be dead. I don't know. The exhaustion, he so physically exerted himself in that monologue that it killed him. I mean, why are we up in his face? Why are we up in his face? Get out of the room, George Scott. Get a microphone in the room, a camera set up, and just talk to him that way. I guess he's not dead. He's just playing it up for dramatic effect at this point. Again, the man is all theater, clearly. But speaking of theater, I guess Stafford is kind of theatrical, and so is Kyler Murray. But weirdly, like Purdy, Herbert, Love, there is kind of a lack of theatrics in a way with their play style. Not the lack of theatrics. They could do kind of get to flinging it around, but, they're not necessarily the most, like, run-around type stuff. Again, Love is kind of a more drop back, and he'll just fling it out somewhere. And then, maybe that one went good, maybe that one didn't. But, he's obviously a little more consistent than that. Drake May's another interesting one. I feel like he is up there with the most variance this year for the quarterbacks. He could be the 24th best quarterback. He could be the 12th best quarterback in the league. And he is very, very interesting from a fantasy perspective this year. Him and Fields as well, too. And Fields is in maybe that Geno Smith tier as well. We did say Bo Nix, though. And I could see a season where Bo Nix with Sean Payton, we could definitely be looking at that over, shout out to Prescott. Prescott just moving down the rankings at this point. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But, hey, yo, trying to shout out George Scott. Looks like he's seen quite a bit. Oh, no, that's not Nurse X. It's just another old patient person. I don't know what's going on at this point. Is this an inner monologue or no? Just some guy, crazy guy, just sitting around. George Scott, he might be possessed at this point. He's just cutting in and out to different spots. He was sitting down, now he's standing up. Everybody in this home is messed up, chat. Hey, yo, this is not good. This lady's just sitting here, just staring into the radio. That lady's just in the corner, just rubbing up against the wall. This lady on the bench literally has a demon in her right now. You can tell. It's Ayo, pause. But she looks like she is a ghost, maybe. She is not good. Like, she literally has the sweats going of, like, currently under demon possession. And then there's a lady in the closet, I mean, of course, as you would, there's just a lady in the closet, an old lady hanging out with the brooms in the room. And a guy on the ceiling? So, wait, is this a home for these type of people, then? What's going on here? There's somebody on the ceiling. An old lady. She looks happy, though. She doesn't look, I guess, well, anybody that's on the ceiling is threatening. But, she doesn't necessarily look like, the fangs haven't popped out yet, and the eyes and the claws and all the stuff has started to emerge. So what do we got going on here? A special room for the people going on? Is he in the X-Men facility? Oh, chat. We've got a bloody situation going on here. Uh-oh. Is that one of the nurses? Is one of the patients making an escape in a nurse getup? Uh-oh, chat. Classic move. Unfortunately, that usually means, again, at the cost of one of the nurses. But it's a go-to. You gotta get a costume from one of the employees somehow. It is what it is. When you're making your getaway, it's one of the first things you have to do. I guess he's not even making a getaway. We're going to check up on a kid at this point. Oh, chat, this is not good. This is getting scary. But, okay, so we got Purdy, Justin Herbert, Stafford, Kyler Murray. We did say I could see Bo Nix being a top 10 quarterback. Is that a hot take? I do think that the highest version of his season is that. I don't know if, again, I'm saying that's a guarantee that he's going to get there. But Jet, I got to know what's going on with this demon on the loose in the hospital. Hey, yo, this Nurse X is definitely, again, up to no good. Oh, what's up with the name? Something with the name. Oh, the patient had a reveal. Yeah, it is the nurse, chat. It is the nurse. George Scott, I think, just realized it. Or he knows it's somebody else. Yeah, it's the daughter. It is the daughter, chat. Or whoever the younger chick is over here that has been up to no good, apparently. So, shout out to George Scott for having to deliver that information. But, yeah, so I don't know. Again, Bo Nix obviously doesn't have the versatility of Kyler Murray in terms of the scrambling. I don't know if he has the arm talent of Love and Stafford, but his offense could be as competent in offense as any of these other ones. Outside of the run game is, of course, just the unanswered question at this point. But I don't know if it's not a hopeful situation as well, too, with how Denver was able to address that in the draft and with the offensive line that they have going into the season as well. And again, with Sean Payton. So do we just and the problem is, again, putting him over the individual names versus kind of randomly ranking him in a spot. But even a guy like Goff, he could start to fall in. If Goff was the guy that, and Goff was a little bit more, he was a little bit more hyped up because he was the number one pick. Again, Bo Nix was a second round guy who kind of emerged in some ways out of necessity, but also seems like a good pick as well, too, at this point in the Sean Payton system. But if Goff is that guy that gets, sort of 6 extra ranking spots because he's with a good offensive coordinator, maybe Bo Nix becomes that guy as well, too, even if it's not quite a little bit of the same draft standpoint. And now George C. Scott has finally been fully unleashed from an acting standpoint as well, too. I don't know if we're going to have to go on a George Scott sort of run. But I love just kind of a good old school detective as well, too. You know, he's not necessarily like a bodybuilder. It's not like Dwayne the Rock Johnson's out here hunting somebody down, or even sort of, again, even like a sort of a grizzled cop like a Gerard Butler type in Den of Thieves. There's even still kind of just a physique that guys in 2025 have, even though he is leaning into a little bit more of the old school dad bod strength type stuff. But, you know, again, even George C. There's not even like a dad bod. He's just a guy. You know, shout out to George C. Scott. But he is a little like, it gets some Raymond Burr vibes here, even though I think Raymond Burr might have been, was he tall? He might have been a little taller. I'm not sure. Shout out Perry Mason, AO. But, yeah, so I guess where we actually rank, it just depends on where we believe he's going to be at in this season. Stafford is still in a good offense, and like we're saying, so is Love. And we need to double check who the 49ers, do they still have Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator over there? Because again, obviously Harbaugh creates a great culture, but from Greg Roman, that's right. So Kellen Moore was on the Eagles after the Chargers. I guess who knows where Kellen Moore's at now at this point. So they do still have Greg Roman and Jesse Minter as well too. Bringing back the coaching staff is important for sure. So I imagine that that's going to be good for Herbert. The offensive line injury stuff is not good, but okay, wait a second. So maybe the daughter is okay. I guess it is one of the old nurse people. I don't know if it's the one that we mentioned earlier, but she's possessed. Oh, so this is now where they have to perform the exorcism at this point. At least she wants help. She just asked for help. You know, again, I feel like most people with demon possession would feel like, and I feel like that is a theme in a horror movie, is the person doesn't necessarily want to be as well too. Oh, chat, what are these scissors that she's gotten out? George C. Scott has turned his back in the wrong time about 6 times here. So he does it once again. This time she has a chance to get the scissors out. Oh, chat. Oh! Did she get the daughter? She went straight for the daughter, the decapitation. That's crazy, chat. I don't know if they got her out there in time. Unfortunately, she may have still got a little bit of a throat slit. No, she got out okay. George C. Scott, though, she's got him by the tie, chat. She's got him by the tie. Uh-oh. Something's took her over, chat. Is somebody performing an exorcism that we don't know about from the background? What's happening to this lady? Hey, yo, chat, this is not good. Oh, it is. Is the father's here, chat? Hey, yo, the priest has showed up. I feel like so his presence alone is enough. So he's gonna perform an exorcism on the guy from the room, and then that's gonna help the people in the George C. Scott house. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, they did just kill some of the momentum there. I feel like The Conjuring would have kept that going. We got about 15 minutes left. So I feel like just the intensity of what we were going for in that scene, you know, the fight, I feel like we would have kept that instead of cutting into kind of this slow walk as well, because the music died as well. I feel my heart rate just went back down, and I feel like for somebody who again doesn't watch horror movies, for me that's, I don't know, that's great, but you know, it is what it is. We're not going to be too mad about it, I guess. But this guy is giving off some Joaquin Phoenix vibes. Exorcist 3 remake, Joaquin Phoenix in the cell, chat. Hey, yo, given that monologue earlier, I think he could definitely perform it. I don't know who's in the George C. Scott role. Michael Douglas now, maybe? Hey, yo. Shout out to the father braving the prison, chat, for the whatever this, spirit that he's facing off against here. We got the holy water, so that's a good start. I'm sure he's got the verses locked in. But, yeah, so for Bo Nix, maybe we just tier this up a little bit more. Like, these guys are sort of more locks. This is the locks, but we could still see them continuing to take a step up. And then the guys that have been good, the guys that could be good, kind of tiers. I don't know. So let's see here. We got, and I think that maybe we would have to put, of course, the 4 guys in their own tier. The question is, does Daniels go in tier 1?
after 1 year. To be honest, just from our own sake of being jealous of having a franchise quarterback, we are not going to do that. We're going to put him in tier 2. It is what it is. We'll go tier 2 with Daniels, Hurts, and CJ Stroud. And at least that gives us a tier 2 at this point as well. Versus a 2-person tier, I feel like is a little bit too shallow at that point. Which, again, is what we're looking at with the Baker Goff tier. But Baker... and so I feel like we could put Stafford in this tier. He's obviously a little bit farther down the timeline, but I'm not going to put Stafford in the Rodgers tier quite yet. But because both of these guys have had changes in the offense, there is question marks about how what the confidence is in their systems is for next year and how that affects, of course, their production and impact. And Stafford doesn't necessarily have those system questions, but his performance maybe gives you sort of the same overall confidence for both of these teams. Uh-oh, Chad, something just happened to this priest's book. His book just blew up. His robes just got ripped off. Oh, the priest just got thrown up against the wall. Is he going to be okay? Is he still going to be able to perform? Oh, he knows the verses by heart. Thank goodness, chat. We don't want some first-time priest on here that doesn't have these verses memorized. Oh, Chad, he's getting his head just ripped off the wall. Hey, yo. That was crazy, chat. I don't know if they're going to be able to put that back on, but yikes. The priest is Father. What's his name, chat? The father is down bad. Father Joseph Dyer, chat. He's going to be dead after this. Father Joseph dead after he gets off the wall, but hopefully he has a couple left breaths to say these verses. The world needs him. Hey, yo. So, we need to perform an exorcism on the computer. The internet's locked up. Check. We have the rankings. Okay, so we'll put Stafford in this tier, and we could put... and Stafford has a Super Bowl as well, too, so maybe he's even in a different tier in some type of ways. But I feel like Kyler has had the time in a way to have sort of the Baker, Jared Goff standing, but I don't know if he's in this tier as well. So... we should probably be putting, Jordan Love up here with the Jaden, not necessarily Jaden Daniels, but maybe the Hurts Stroud sort of tier. But I do think maybe him and Kyler and Herbert is a little bit appropriate. And, now with the rankings, it's like, okay, we got them sort of ranked under these guys. But I kind of think these two tiers right here are equal with the Baker, Goff, Stafford, Kyler, Jordan Love, Herbert group as well. And here, I guess... Dak kind of has to go in this... well, does he have to kind of go in this Goff? Again, Stafford has been in Super Bowls. Goff has been in a Super Bowl. I don't know if Baker has done what those guys have done. But, he has had pretty good seasons as being the number 1 overall pick. Oh, yeah, chat. The George C. Scott somehow made it out okay. I guess, did he get the exorcism off in time? Wait a second. So is that it? Are we done? The book is fried? The priest is fried? George C. Scott, his mind is fried at this point. Oh, chat, that's just gross. That was the one look away part from the movie. And there is the father right there, giving his life. I mean, R.I.P. the legend. It is what it is. Not all priests have had good runs in their days. But it did seem, and I guess I don't know about the history of Father Dyer, but it did seem like Father Dyer had some good redeeming moments in the last part. Wait, so George C. Scott has had a gun on him this whole time? He could have just fired in here? Boom, boom. Wait, so is he going to take himself or is he going to take Damien? Yeah, he's not going to take himself. Oh, chat. George C. Scott. No. They're going to take our man, George C. Scott. Hey, yo, chat. You don't bring a gun to a demon fight. It is what it is. Is the prayer from George C. Scott going to work? I don't know what kind of special effects. They're just, he's just kind of got this ripple effect going right now. It's like an Achilles tear through his entire body. Okay, something slowed down. We see his breath. Something just got cold right now. Hey, yo, chat. We've got George C. Scott's got to confront his beliefs in the last couple of seconds here. This is tough. I don't know. Unfortunately, the priest maybe a little too focused on the exorcism. Should have just gone to straight prayer there in the last couple of moments as well. And apparently he didn't get the that's, I don't know, has that ever happened in an exorcism movie before, chat? Hey, yo. Have people not been able to get the exorcism off in time? And maybe that's just a Conjuring thing. Patrick Wilson,
Maybe he's just an elite exorcismist. He's undefeated in getting him off. Pause. But George C. Scott, I believe in murder. I believe in slime. Chat, we're going to say that every time Anthony Richardson throws an interception. I believe in slime. Hey, yo, chat. Hey, yo. George, bitch. George, I'm just reading the line. George C. Scott. Hey, yo. George C. Scott is going crazy right now. The closed captions have got us saying the wrong things. Hey, yo, chat. Is George C. Scott going to get out of this okay? I mean, I'm okay with George C. Scott. No offense, man. It is what it is. It's just a bad timing of closed captioning and saying your name, unfortunately. But I think George C. Scott can, he'll be fine. He can handle it. It is what it is. So we get Lightning in the cell. Hey, yo, chat. Forget about the QB rankings. This is crazy. Uh-oh. Is this just an opening to the pit, chat? George C. Scott's going straight down? Whoa. Oh, no. Somebody's emerging up? Chat, this is wild. I mean, you know, Children of the Corn was one thing. This is taking some of the religious stuff to a whole nother realm. Is this a statue of... Oh, I thought maybe... Police? What's going on here, chat? This feels like we're making statements now at the end. I don't know. I'm not one to read through messaging, so I don't even know what's being said at this point. Wait a second. Now we've got the Joaquin Phoenix lookalike guy in the place. I don't even know if this is real, if this is an hallucination. It's an hallucination, I think, because they just cut back and he's imagining it all. So I don't know if that means this has been hallucinations the whole time for everybody. I mean, clearly not for the priest, because he's not, I don't think, hallucinating himself. Oh, Chet, he just twitched. Wait a second, is the priest still alive? What's happening? He's got to get to the crucifix rosary thing, the little cross situation. The priest, he's still alive, Chet. He's still alive. He's been able to summon his last couple of seconds of energy, chat. Can he get the win? Is George C. Scott on the ceiling or is he on the floor? I don't even know. I think he's on the ceiling. Oh, chat, they're going to get Damien. They got him. Did they get him? Oh, get him, Bill. Oh! Chat, he got him. Great call by Damien. Great coaching in the last second. I mean, speaking of sacrifice, he was able to, I mean, it's been the last couple of seconds to fight off that demon and say, hey, you got to get me now. George C. Scott gets up like nothing happened. Hey, yo, chat. It is what it is. What just happened? Holy cow. That was wild. So the exorcism does work. Just another one for good luck? You got to, chat. John Wick would do it. You know, George C. Scott better do it as well. So, whew. Do we got to go to break again, chat? We might have to take another break at this point, honestly, and collect ourselves and see if we can piece together the rest of the QB rankings. I mean, I don't know how far we're going to get. The Colts have 4 quarterbacks. The Browns have 5. The Giants have 6. So, you know, at this, we're ranking only teams with 1 starting quarterback. It is what it is. Holy cow, chat. I have to take a lap. I need to cool off, chat. We'll be right back. Whew. Okay, chat, we are back. We had to throw Shaft on the TV. It is what it is. Shout out Samuel. I mean, since he was in Exorcist 3, it seems like, of course, just a natural carryover into Shaft. And we just needed to see something now where just a guy that wins every move goes right. Something just, always positive. Shout out, again, Samuel, is what it is. But to quickly try to solve some of the rest of this quarterback ranking here. So I guess the numbers aren't necessarily going to mean as much. I guess since we've already pivoted what it is. So I don't necessarily know about having Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott on the same tier. But both of them being kind of question mark guys with production does make sense a little bit as well too. So maybe we do kind of leave it like that in a way, and then see who else we have to just kind of add on to the list at this point. So we are about halfway through in just in terms of adding names on. But Gino, we probably do need to start considering Gino as well too. Of course, he's been highly productive on the Seahawks the last couple of years. And I do think the Raiders are a sneaky team. I don't know what play. Let me pull up playoff odds here real quick and see, because this could be a sneaky one. I know some of the depth might not be there, but there's maybe some, what if some of the draft picks from the last couple of years actually have taken the steps forward? And like always, they have had those elite skill guys, those elite guys at those, couple of positions over the last couple of years. They've had Max Crosby, and they had Devontae Smith. It was Devontae Adams there. It was a different sort of collection of guys, but they still have again Max Crosby. You bring in Ginty as the running back, who you would assume would be that sort of stud offensive skill guy as well too. And I mean, Geno Smith is just probably an upgrade at quarterback. Hopefully you're bringing in the Pete Carroll familiarity. Like, I do think, did we get the word there right, Chad? I'm not sure. The familiarity, you bring in, him and Pete Carroll have worked together before. So that's going to, I think, account for something as well, too, just in terms of them resetting the team and the culture and getting them back in those winning vibes as well, too. But I don't think they're necessarily, and everybody's kind of focused on the Broncos as well, too. I get it. And I feel like, after the Broncos, you're going to focus on the Chargers, because it would seem natural for them to take a step forward. Chargers are minus 108 to make the playoffs, and the Raiders are plus 320. Let me double check the Raiders roster here real quick. I guess this will be another thing to circle back on as well too, after we kind of get everything ranked out and see where we're looking at. They lost Christian Wilkins, but you think maybe Tyree Wilson gets a little better. And Bowers was the other guy I was thinking about as well. I forgot about Bowers. You got Ginty, Bowers, Crosby. It could, just Bowers and Crosby alone is a good offensive defense 1-2. And then Geno as a good above average quarterback. You get a run game on there with a good offensive line. Like, there's some pieces on this Raiders team. And if Carroll can coach this up a little bit, like, I like the Chin addition to the team as well too. Darian Porter, the rookie out of Iowa State. I kind of like Darian Porter out of the draft. Stokes is maybe a little bit more hit or miss, but if Porter's good, then who knows? Chin as the slot corner. The secondary, maybe in coverage is a little weak. Ayo, chat, but there is maybe, I feel like it could be a nice tackling secondary in a way. The safety game isn't as strong as it's been. I think they lost Moyrig, and they had Divine Diablo here as well too, and I think he might have signed somewhere else. But Kuntz, you get Malcolm Kuntz back from the injury, if I remember correctly, so that means their defensive line could actually be really good this year as well too. Everybody kind of focused on the Giants being the team with the discrepancy of the team and then the defensive line standing out. Not quite that, but could still definitely be along those lines of the really constant pass rush and still led by an elite guy as well too. So I think the Raiders are kind of a sleeper team in the AFC because they did also just win a couple of they a couple of years ago. They did just win like 7 or so games. So here, let me double check. Well, because last year, what it says they were at 4-13 last year. Hey yo, so shout out that team. Yeah, 8-9. So again, it's not crazy, and it still is a bit of a different team from where we were at that point with them having rebuilt. But again, I don't think that they have necessarily had to rebuild a disaster franchise in the way that maybe it's thought the same type of way. And again, maybe they were a little bit reliant on some of those high level players at that time as well too. But like I'm saying, Devontae Adams has kind of been replaced with Brock Bowers in that type of way. And the quarterback is better now as well too. So, and yeah, who was the quarterback in 23? It wasn't Carr, right? Yeah, it was O'Connell, and our guy Garoppolo was 3-3. They went 5-5 with Aiden O'Connell. So we could go through the schedule here in the matchups. I don't know, will everything correlate in the same way? But if this team 2 years ago was 8-9, you bring in Carroll, you bring in Geno, you reset some of the pieces in a different way. I think there is 7-8 win potential here. So again, playoffs, you're probably going to need maybe more 9-10 as well too. But I guess again, 9 wins is not totally out the potential. I'm just trying not to seem crazy. But I guess in my heart of hearts, hook me up to the lie detector test. I would not be shocked if the Raiders won 10 games. What are they at right now to win 10 games this year? I'm not necessarily saying that I think that they're going to be a 10-win team, but plus 420. I mean, they are less odds to win 10 games than the Panthers. I don't know about that, chat. And I like Bryce Young as well too, but again, we haven't even really brought him up. And I think Geno is just a little bit more established at this point. Like, I kind of think Geno is in this Prescott Purdy tier, Purdy tier. And I feel like this is now becoming a little unfair to Purdy at this point. Again, do we just take the numbers off? Because it is more kind of labels at this point. We'll think of actual, I guess, tiered titles maybe to cook up and have them on here. But the kind of veteran presence and baseline that he brings to the team is, I think, a good, valuable, wild card level production. And again, that's something if you're looking to turn around in the same type of way. The Raiders aren't, I think, looking to rebuild through the third pick in the draft. They're not looking to have like 3 number 1 picks in a row and then rebuild that way. They're probably looking to dabble in getting some free agents, hopefully hit on some draft picks as well too, and kind of a combination of both of those things. But there's a little bit of separation between them and the Titans. The Giants, I guess, could be an interesting 10-win one, but they just have question marks at quarterback. So even if they get something figured out, you still imagine the whole point of them of this season is them figuring out the quarterback spot, where the Raiders don't have to do that. Even really with the Panthers, the Dolphins, I do like Cam Ward, and I haven't really seen the preseason stuff, but I think he'll be a good quarterback, even if is he going to be 7 All-Pros? Who knows? But I think he'll be a really good pro as well. And you got Fields down here, the Saints and the Browns. So yeah, Geno, I think, is being undervalued right now on this Raiders team, and they still got Miller as the left tackle, Parham. So the left side of the line is solid. Meredith, I mean, PFF loves Jordan Meredith. Ayo, 5th best center. Jackson Powers Johnson, not the highest grade, but second round pick in 2024, still potentially has upside, and as a guard as well too. That's not bad. And our guy DJ Glaze at left tackle. I mean, shout out. As long as DJ Glaze is starting at left tackle, we're gonna be in on the Raiders team. It is what it is. So we're putting Geno Smith in the tier of sort of veteran guys with question marks. So this is the tier of guys that we're saying should be better this year, and this is the guys that have been good, and this is the guys that should continue to be really good, and this is the guys that should continue to be really good. And the second tier is the guys that should continue to be more awesome next year. We're workshopping the titles, chat, as we go. It is what it is. Does anybody else belong in the veteran tier with question marks? I guess we didn't have Bo Nix actually written down in a tier, so screw it, chat. We'll put him in the tier with Herbert and Jordan Love.
I don't care. We'll rank the situation potential to be up there. And I guess the receivers are a little bit better this year for sure as well. Though I don't know if it's the most dynamic group in the league. But again, I don't know if Sean Payton has always had the greatest skill group in general. And like I said, I think Sean Payton kind of likes the idea of elevating the offense in a way. If he has good offensive line and good defense to make up for those things, his play calling, he feels like he can get enough yards to get you first downs and keep the ball moving with his play calling, for sure. So I don't know if we kind of start randomly diving into the next tier of younger guys at this point, because now we do start to get to maybe this is the young guys with question marks tier as well. So here, let me just list out some of the guys that we have left. We have Michael Penix, and I guess we still have Kirk Cousins as well too. So we're gonna put Kirk Penix. Penix. Okay, we didn't misspell it like they did in that one news station, but we didn't spell it right there all the way. But Penix, and we're gonna put Kirk Cousins in this tier that's like on the bench trade potential guy if you need him. So that tier is Kirk Cousins. That is, I guess, some guys in the Browns and the Saints and the Giants maybe as well too. But we know we have Penix. We know we have Bryce Young. Again, I'm not really ranking him at this point, but Caleb Williams, Drake May as well. So like we said, he does have the variance, but I am kind of high up on his rushing upside. And again, I'm kind of double talking where, I'm kind of valuing Mahomes's, but again, Mahomes has the legacy to value over the just individual skill set of these guys versus, like we're saying, in this tier, these guys don't have the legacies to value yet. So we have to value the individual skill sets. And I kind of think that Drake May's individual skill set is looking like it could be the best one with his passing ability, but then the way he can add to the run game as well too, as like a positive runner, where it seems like Caleb Williams is still in his like scrambling around type stuff, whereas again Drake May is kind of like he'll tuck it and run and just try to pick up yards at that point as well too. We're gonna put Anthony Richardson's name on the list as well. Shout out. Who else do we have? I guess maybe we're getting into another tier of like the week one discussions, and I guess Anthony Richardson could be in that tier. But even if the Anthony Richardson question marks are what they are, we're still in the Colts QB room. We're still pro Anthony Richardson. It is what it is. We haven't necessarily, it's not like Riley Leonard has stepped to the plate and it's like, oh well, now I guess we have to be all in on Riley Leonard. So we're still gonna fight for Richardson and as the Colts starter, I guess. But in terms of him being the long-term guy, we'll just have to see what happens for this season as well too. And that's tough to say because again, I've been trying to be as pro Richardson as possible, and and it's not even an unreal thing. Like I have believed in his upside. So it's like, just at the end of the day, if you do believe in his upside, just focus on that, and not necessarily the frustration in the process to get there. But you do start to wonder about what the long-term plan is at this point as well too at that spot, more so than just again his individual ability to be a productive NFL starter. But we're including his name right now as well too. Oh, Trevor Lawrence, chat. Hey yo, we're just leaving out the rest of the AFC South, so we gotta put Cam Ward down. Trevor Lawrence. I mean, shout out, chat. This is the one time when we're typing out names in unranked style that Anthony Richardson will be over Cam Ward and Trevor Lawrence in the rankings. It is what it is. But hey, well, I guess maybe I'll say this in a second. But no, screw it. I'll say it right now. Would I rather have Anthony Richardson or Trevor Lawrence for this season? Screw it. I'd rather have Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying he's going to have a better year, but he could. And I don't know if Trevor Lawrence's best year this year is enough to sell me on what, and to just trade the possibility of Anthony Richardson's best year. So I guess, do I think Anthony Richardson's best season this year could be better than Trevor Lawrence's best season? I do. I guess I actually do think that it could be. I don't know if it is better than the best version of the four guys. I actually do maybe think it's better than Bryce Young, but I may just be in like size biased at that point. Ayo, pause.
But Caleb Williams and Penix, it feels like if Caleb Williams did get things to click and Penix, their passing ability would be pretty dynamic in the right offenses. They have some good weapons to work with as well, too. Like we're saying, Drake May does have the sort of double versatility with the run game as well. And I just do like Cam Ward's confidence and leadership abilities. So here, to be honest, let's just switch Ward and Richardson around. Don't tell anybody in chat. It is what it is. And I guess we'll go Drake May as well too over Penix. But I do think that Penix is going to be a good starter as well too. Again, I think the high upside of Penix is what is in question at this point. But I do think that Atlanta is going to get a really good starter. And I think that, the odds and the hype is going to be between them and Carolina at this point to start the season. Going in, and I guess Tampa as well too, but them as the sort of the younger teams emerging. Which of those teams will, actually take the big leap forward? And I guess I would, Bryce Young still showed that growth pause at the end of last year. And even if the production was still not quite, again, like the high levels that you want it to be, the fact that there was improvement there is something to where even guys that have struggled early in their careers, it just feels like they've never, been able to quite get the momentum turned around in the right other way. Where, again, at least Bryce Young is turning that back around. I don't know, again, if he's going to have a better season than Penix, but I think that if this makes sense now, I think the worst version of Bryce Young, I think like Caleb Williams has a potential worse season than Bryce Young, if that makes sense. I guess the worst version of a Bryce Young season. Who knows? But I could potentially see the Bears winning like 5 games this year and the Panthers winning like 7. Maybe both of them are not great, but I could see the Panthers just having a little bit better vibe with the circumstance, and maybe it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe the Bryce Young thing is not, and you have the trade aspect of it as well too. But I guess those two guys were involved in the trade as well, so there's that storyline. I guess now that we're comparing those guys individually is kind of crazy, from where we were at one point where it's like the Bears won the trade before they even drafted Caleb Williams. But I mean, again, you could walk away feeling like Bryce Young's a really good starting NFL quarterback, or above average starting NFL quarterback. Still maybe not, totally just long term. We're just set to have the guy as well too. But the hype stuff around the conversation stuff around Caleb Williams this year, I think, unfortunately, could get a little uglier, I guess, is the point. And again, maybe that's just the newer expectations of him having to go through that cycle. But I still do also believe that he could figure some of this stuff out as well too. And I think sometimes it's maybe, I don't want to say a recalibration of what you expect as a quarterback, but if you expect a lot and you're going to ask Caleb Williams to do a lot, maybe you actually, and again, don't expect a lot, but if you do actually treat him like a quarterback that is a little bit more limited and limit the stuff that you do on offense and kind of have to let your receivers and your creators create a little bit, maybe you do let Caleb Williams work into a rhythm and learn and actually develop as a quarterback that type of way. The Ben Johnson thing is obviously going to be major to see how that affects his development. But I do have some panic stock of this group of guys, and I think the way that his ability to attack down the field with the way that this Atlanta team is set up, and Bijan as well too, like as much as that's a running back thing, and it just like, okay, Bijan can carry the Falcons outside of Penix, that's not necessarily fair to Caleb Williams, but in the passing game, and then just again his threat in the running game, it's going to make it easier for Penix, to where if Penix gets that confidence in that rhythm, then now we're cooking at that point. It doesn't really matter what the starting point is or what the the hype was for both of the guys. At some point it's like just the one guy's emerged as the better player. But I think for this tier, this is kind of how I would probably end up ranking it at this point. And we gotta include Tua as well too. But chat, it's not anything. It just is what it is. The health thing at this point, unfortunately. We have to take Tua. Tua has to go in this veterans category because Tua is a really, and to be honest, I think Geno has the ability to be a little bit more consistent week to week. But, and again, I don't know if going into this season, if we could just spell Tua's last name off top, you'd have to give us some credit, chat. But Tua Tagovailoa, we should be able to get that, chat. I feel like that's not quite spelling level Antetokounmpo type stuff, but Tagovailoa. Let's see if we got it here. Tagovailoa. Okay. We are close. There we go. To Tagovailoa. We'll go with it, chat. See what happens. But yeah, I think his ability to just produce amazing numbers and great offenses is obviously something that has to be accounted for. And while we may walk away from this season with a bunch of these guys in this tier list, be like, oh yeah, Drake May and Penix and Williams, maybe you'd definitely rather have these guys right now. Again, at least for a tier sort of standing wise, we just have to list it, I guess, this way. If we column it and then put them so they're side by side. Just since it's listed this way, I feel like him Purdy. We'll move Purdy up. And I feel like maybe Prescott could get moved up as well, too. I just kind of, again, I've always been a fan of his game. But unfortunately, the playoff success hasn't quite mounted in the same way. So we'll move Purdy into the tier with Kyler, Jordan Love, Bo Nix. Because, again, he is younger as well, too. So he should continue to get better, not necessarily kind of like, or have we seen him level off of, like, who he is as a player. So then that leaves Dak, Geno, and Tua in the veterans with question marks type category. I guess the question is, do we end up moving like Stafford or Goff down into those tier? But I would definitely be, and I feel like it's not crazy to say, I'd be definitely much more confident with one of those three guys, Baker, Stafford, or Goff, than Dak, Geno, or Tua. But I don't know, it is close, and Geno versus Stafford is close. I feel like it could be in 2025. Same with Dak. Like, if the Rams could trade for Dak right now, that's an interesting conversation. I feel like Stafford's playoff confidence, you maybe are talking yourself like we are into that. And then to just say, hey, he's been our guy in the past. We're just, until it's like completely off the rails, we're going to ride with it. If we have to change it in the middle of the season, we'll see what we have to do. But I think we have to give him his credit until the tires are, completely burn up at this point. But I guess we'll just start the next tier as well, too, to get the rest of the names listed out here. And this would be the guys that might not be week 1 starters, but I kind of think they should be. Like, should Shador not just start week 1? I guess he's the first guy we mentioned on this list at this point. But, you're going to go in with the season with Flacco. I guess it hasn't seemed like Gabriel and Kenny Pickett, have been winning the jobs at this point. And again, Shador has looked good in the preseason, so I know that he's going to have the name value versus where you ended up taking him, but I think we all know that kind of was a not appropriate thing, a not correct thing as well, too. Even if he wasn't, though, quite the first round grade that we thought, he was still not a 5th round grade, obviously, as an NFL prospect. He was still maybe more in that day 2 type range. But regardless, and with the Browns sort of not being in that same spot they've been in where they need the veteran core, if the Browns in the preseason dialogue was like, hey, this team is a NFC North contender, and if they had a consistent producer, they could maybe make a run at an AFC title game, then I get, again, having that veteran guy in there. But since we're kind of, and they still have a lot of great pieces, obviously Myles Garrett being the best of them, but because they're a little bit more of a, waiting on the quarterback, waiting on the rest of the run, they got some pieces and some question marks as well. Just seeing what you have with Shador and just letting him, I guess, develop could be the right move. And let's see what the schedule is, because that's always going to matter as well, too, for his potential introduction to the league. So you've got Cincy, week 1, Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota as your first 5, Pittsburgh, Miami, New England, and then you got your bye in week 9. So you do got a nice, halfway through the year week bye, maybe, or halfway through the year, bye season. So maybe bye week, we'll get it right at some point. But maybe you just go first half of the year with your Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, veteran sort of combination, and then focus on your younger guys on the end of the year and just see what happens in that first half of the year if something clicks from a competitive standpoint. But defensively, Cincinnati is not necessarily like the most respected defense in the league. Baltimore is not easy. Green Bay definitely has some athletes that can be flying around. In Detroit, Hutchinson back healthy. Week 4, I imagine that he could be terrorizing the league again by that point as well too. He was arguably the best defensive player, if not just the best player in the league when he got hurt last year. So that could be a brutal just player matchup to go against. But, it's not like the murder. And it's, at some point you're in the NFL, you just got to play some teams. But it's not like a unbearable stretch to start the year. Like some good hype with some of those matchups and just good quality teams. But I feel like you could definitely play Shedeur in week 1. And at this point, I kind of think Jackson Dart should start week 1. And it does seem like some of the headlines are starting to form that way as well, too. Again, Russ is maybe, if anything. So maybe Russ we put in the Kirk Cousins tier of veteran guys on the bench in case you need to trade. And I think, at this point, we would still rather have Russ than Kirk Cousins. Like, unfortunately, the Kirk Cousins stuff was a little wobbly at the end of last year. But I just go ahead and just start Jackson Dart, Jameis, again, hasn't necessarily, not like the other veteran guys are, okay, well, we might win 8 games. If we play them, we might be a playoff team. Because, again, with their defensive line, maybe they have a little bit more case to be the total team. And they have neighbors as well, too. So at least you have a weapon that can really change the course of games. So you've got for them Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, Saints. So that's a pretty high profile first 4 games. Jackson Dart, just I guess no Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football week 3 versus the Giants. Jackson Dart versus Mahomes. I mean, that's kind of fun. That's honestly more fun than Russell Wilson, even if the Mahomes or the Jackson Dart thing is crazy at that point. The randomness of those of the possibilities for that 3 games in is just more fun than whatever sort of the version of 2025 version of a Russell Wilson game that we're going to get is at this point. And Spags is going to be brutal in that game for sure. The Commanders, again, veteran defense. The Cowboys, you probably have Parsons maybe at that point. Maybe Parsons is on the Giants. I probably not traded to him. Probably not trading him to that team, but maybe he's not there. Who knows? But that's another one, a little bit manageable as well, too. Saints, you do have the Eagles, Broncos, Eagles as a pretty brutal 6-7 week stretch. Niners, then you go Bears, Packers, Lions, Patriots, Commanders, Vikings, Raiders, Cowboys. So end of the year, definitely Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's definitely playing by week 10. That's a lock. I mean, Bears, Packers, Lions, Patriots, like that whole stretch. I mean, the week 14 bye, but then he's going to play 4 games? No, probably not. And, I mean, make no mistake, 10 weeks of clamoring for Jackson Dart is not going to happen. He's probably going to be starting, second quarter of week 2. But just go ahead and start him week 1. Just the Jackson Dart tenure, he's going to be the Giants quarterback. Just throw him out there in the NFC East and see what happens. And, just let your guy play for the whole year. I'm not saying just go out there and ruin your rookie quarterback. But I don't think, again, with the veterans and the roster that they have, they are necessarily in the need of that type of performance from the quarterback spot. So we do also need to include Sam Darnold on this list as well, too. And if Tua is in the list with Geno Smith and Purdy, then Sam Darnold is. I know Sam Darnold hasn't had as many good seasons as these guys, but the situational history of Sam Darnold, we're going to give him a pass. It is what it is. Again, we're not necessarily like locking him in as former number 3 overall pick. Well, I guess Sam Darnold's a top 10 QB now. But is Sam Darnold a guy that, okay, Sam Darnold can win 7-8 games in a season? Yeah, probably. And again, that's, a losing record. Okay, what does that mean? But, that means that he is probably a above average starter and maybe the team's a little weak and he's not quite elevating it in the same way. So McCarthy, Chad, hey, yo, we got to put our guy McCarthy on the list over here. And unfortunately, so we may be flipping Cam Ward and Bryce Young. Are we flipping Cam Ward and Caleb Williams, chat? We'll just do that silently and switch it later in the year if we need to and just pretend that never happened. So, because if you got some sort of size arm strength thing with Bryce Young, I feel like, or with McCarthy, Bryce Young, I feel like that dynamic could be the same sort of conversation in terms of the physical capabilities. But Bryce or JJ McCarthy does actually have a good deep ball. And pause. And if we remember last season, again in the preseason, if we want to overrate preseason hype, let's overrate preseason hype from last year when McCarthy was just going out and lighting it up and had like a couple of good passes and seemed really nice with the rhythm of the offense. So, I guess I'll be biased, chat. Again, I have no problem in sharing what my bias is. I'll put JJ McCarthy over Caleb Williams. Yikes! Yikes, chat! Again, we can correct it, but I think that this Vikings team is a good team. Obviously, not a hot take, but McCarthy is in the same spot as Jordan Love is, and maybe even slightly better. I don't know. Kevin O'Connell might be one of the best, if not the best, but our top 5, top 3 QB coach in the league. And Jordan Love, of course, again, has a little bit more proven history than JJ McCarthy. But I do think that JJ McCarthy, again, can be that Penix level, really good pro quarterback. We'll see what the ultimate high level upside is. And unlike Penix as well, his team is better. So I don't know why the Ben Johnson thing is just, it feels like there is a little hesitancy there for what may happen. And Canellis as well, too. I still think that people have a lot of stock in him. And, me as well. I really like how the Panther situation obviously turned around at the end of last year. So that can continue to trend upward for sure. So who are we missing, chat? Let me see here. We've got most of the divisional guys ranked. We don't have a Saints guy on the list. We don't have Fields on the list. We don't have Rodgers on the list as well. Okay, so Fields, Rodgers, and the Saints. Here, I'm bringing the numbers back, chat, because we know, obviously, we're going to be a little over 32 at this point starting the season. I guess even at the end of the season, we're going to be over 32. But we need at least 32 names in the list to account for every starting quarterback spot in the league. So I feel like we got to be at like 29 at this point. Okay, so we did say, Fields, Rodgers, and the Saints. Okay, perfect, chat. So that would be the last 3. So Fields, this tier of guys outside of Lawrence, and Lawrence and Fields would be the same draft, and unfortunately Lawrence is just at the bottom of the tier. Lawrence at 27 is crazy. That's obviously way too low. It is what it is. I guess, again, it's not an individual sort of numeric ranking, but I feel like Fields, the safety of what he provides to the offense might be a little bit more than Trevor Lawrence with some of the run game stuff. Like, if you leaned into the run game defense identity, again, are you going to win a Super Bowl? Probably not. But now that we're in that different phase of Justin Fields' career where he's gone to a couple of different teams with the different with the kind of franchise player expectations, but now he's in kind of his mercenary prime years where he's going to be sort of maybe 1 to 2 year contracts and bridge quarterback type stuff. And, again, another really high level fantasy player, but can bring a baseline to the offense. So I have no problem ranking him in the veteran tiers with question marks. Prescott, Geno Smith, Tua, Sam Darnold, and Fields. And to be honest, I think I would rather have Sam Darnold over Tua at this point. And Sam Darnold versus Fields is a good debate, but I'll still take the swing with Fields. Fields versus Geno is a fun one too. But, that puts Fields at 18. That's not bad. I feel like, and that's just the sort of baseline, the area range that he could be in. He could jump up to outside of the top 10 or, maybe the other way as well too. But that's a decent starting point. And again, you got Geno and Dak as the next 2 guys. Like, that could just be by virtue of however those seasons go. He moves up the rankings. But the Saints don't really have a starter, I think, at this point. And then who was the last? Oh, Rodgers, chat. Rodgers might have to go in his own tier. Because the Steelers don't have the young guy to replace Rodgers, and then Rodgers goes to the bench tier. But he should be in the tier with Russell Wilson. So we're going to put him in the tier with Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins. It is what it is. No disrespect, but shout out. The hopefully these guys are golfing in Florida in a couple months. Hey, yo, you've made a lot of money. You've had a good time. I guess I'm not saying retire from football. There's still plenty of ways to be involved in football, chat. Hey, yo, what about us that never even get to make it into the NFL? Like, you've had your time. It is what it is. But let's see here, chat. Now that we've called for the end of, a couple of careers, that would give us... And then, so we'll put the Saints... The Saints get their own tier of... We haven't figured it out yet. Or do we just put Spencer Rattler as the 31st guy in our list? We might as well just do that, chat, because I would just... what are we going to get, like, Jake Hayner with a random sort of performance? Maybe. Who knows? If it becomes obvious in camp that one of the guys just absolutely has to play, then I guess, we'll do the smart football thing for Saints fans. But otherwise, we're pro Spencer Rattler, chat. It is what it is. Hopefully the preseason continues to go okay for him. In his, I guess maybe his last potential start for the preseason, and potential to show himself, showcase his skills in that way. But do we need to put Tanner McKee on this list? How many other bench guys do we need to include? So I guess, again, Wilson and Cousins will mention. Rodgers is a definite starter as well, too. So we're going to tier him in a different list. And again, we don't really know what the Shedeur Sanders, I guess Jackson Dart, at least I haven't looked it up at this point. So we don't know, like, Jackson Dart starter. Let's see if it's been stars in home season and they're not going to announce it on the 17th probably as well, too. Giants coaches straight take on Jackson Dart's chances 14 hours ago. Okay, well, I guess we'd be bad at research if we didn't click on it and see. Newsweek, I don't know, chat. Let's see here. Russ is our starter, and we're going to keep developing Jackson. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty definitive. Russell Wilson is a starting quarterback. It doesn't matter. Reverend Sam Ranking says Jackson Dart should be the week 1 starter, and that guarantees you the 30th best starting quarterback in the league if you make that move. So I guess initially the rankings here, we'll take the numbers off and go for the labeled titles. So we've got tier 1 is definite stars is a little bit low-key. Should we go definite elite, guys? Definite elite. Joe Flacco elite? Because that was always sort of the conversation, right? That last tier. Again, he was always good and playoff capable. But the conversation was, is Joe playoff elite? So we have definite elite. We have ascending elite, maybe. The guys that are next up and could definitely, like we're saying, jump into that tier. So shout out Grammarly for carrying this segment as it helps us spell. But ascending elite guys, we got Jaden Daniels. Again, Hurts, a little bit more veteran, but I do think his game is still going up as well, too. And maybe just his continued viewpoint in the league, status in the league, continues to rise as well, too, as he just continues to constantly, produce winning teams as well. We've got solid veterans is maybe a little bit of a pause. So, I don't know, solid, if we could go capable, we could go guys that have, produced over the last couple of seasons that have been good. I guess we're going with solid veterans, chat. It is what it is. We're not trying to overthink the tier titles at this point. Just to help it, veterans, chat. Hey, yo, shout out. Rem and Sam 0 for 3 on spelling tier names. It is what it is. And then we've got ascending veterans, maybe. I guess now Bo Nix is in the ascending veterans tier in his second year. It is what it is. I feel like for the most part, it's pretty well labeled. So maybe this is the Joe Flacco, are they elite tier? The Joe Flacco tier, the not the mid tier, but veterans with question marks. That was Dak Prescott, Geno, Justin Fields, Tua tier. So now that we know how to spell veterans, chat, ayo, with question marks. Okay, we got that one down, at least for now. So yeah, this also is,
we don't. I don't want to say ascending good quarterbacks because you could say that Kyler again. Maybe Kyler Love. Any of these guys could be maybe. There's not going to be, I guess, MVP stuff potentially for Bo Nix this year. That'd be a little aggressive, but there could be MVP stuff for any of these guys, I guess, is the point at some point where maybe Geno, Darnold, Field, yeah, maybe Dak, the MVP stuff could definitely get there. Is Prescott 1S? I think it might be 1S. Let's see here. Yeah, shout out. We will get that corrected and respect the Prescott family name, but still guys that, and again, guys that have been good, so it's not like they're just all question marks on what the potential is. But I don't know why we can't think of a tier name for that one. That just isn't like 3 words, I guess, is the problem as well too. And then we have young AO and unproven for this tier. Then we have the should-be starters for Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Spencer Rattler. And to be honest, I need to dive more into the Jackson Dart highlights, but maybe we have to flip him over Shedeur as well, too. Again, I'm just be biased at this point and just go with our guy, Shedeur. But maybe the Jackson Dart stuff is really encouraging from the drives that he has had as well, too. So, and I guess, should-be starters we're implying week 1, but I guess, at some point, should be starters is something that should definitely happen at some point this season. And then we've got the veteran golfers. We're gonna go golf tier, chat. Hey yo, Pro-Am. This is the Pro-Am golf tier right here because I feel like Rodgers and Wilson and Cousins maybe have had some Pro-Am runs as well. So these guys definitely not hopefully playing golf anytime soon. But is this like maybe the coach or quarterback type tier where maybe it's like system quarterback question mark again? Maybe that's more Baker, Goff, and Stafford at this time as well too. But we have maybe this is like younger and proven, prime and unproven type guys. Bo Nix is now. See, Bo Nix should be in young and unproven because if you flip Bo Nix and Drake May, though Bo Nix might be more developed as a passer this year, or just in general, he might be farther along and more capable of accomplishing some of that stuff. But just Drake May's ability in general. But I think the Broncos, in theory, like we're saying, are probably a little bit more competitive team than the Patriots. The Falcons, from a playoff standpoint, would be the other one where you feel like they'd be a little bit more competitive in terms of winning the division. And then at that point, you got Penix in a different kind of playoff conversation than sort of Drake May and some of these other young guys. And I guess the Vikings, it depends. The Vikings, the Bears, the Panthers, some of the NFC teams, I guess maybe have a little bit more playoff chances depending on which of these guys ascend. But we'll give him like we're saying, that Sean Payton benefit of the doubt as well too, and that Sean Payton elevation on here. So, and Gannon is not really proven as a coach as well too. So, an MVP in the title for this question, like, is this guy gonna win the MVP? Would be a little too much hype, I think, at this point. But maybe we just go hyped up guys at this point. Purdy and the hyped up guys tier. I don't know if he's necessarily a guy that gets hyped up, but tier wise, I think it makes sense. Hyped up by coaches, so we'll just go hyped up guys for this tier as well. I kind of like how that plays out. Again, the veteran. This is sort of the intersection of the veterans and the guys entering the primes of their careers. Versus I do think this, and I feel like these two tiers will be kind of battling it out in the quarterback rankings. These two tiers will be battling it out. And then one or two of these guys will jump up. Because, like we're saying, Penix's team is better. And it really could be McCarthy as well, too. I guess, I don't know if I feel like people are ready to say, like, McCarthy would be a top 10 quarterback in the league. But that could be a really good situation, top 10 team in the league. And then helmed by McCarthy is, really great way to
start your NFL career. I'm trying to think of what our biggest miss would be as well too. It's either Trevor Lawrence being too low or Anthony Richardson being too high. I don't know what it is, but it's just all pretty safe, especially with the tier aspect of it as well too. But there we go, chat. There's the quarterback rankings, I guess, for quarterback sort of hype evaluation for 2025 as we get ready for the NFL season. We'll be ranking guys all week, chat. It's going to be fun. So stay tuned for that. We'll be here live on the YouTube. And, of course, you can follow the live streams later on the podcast feeds. They get posted to Spotify, Apple, and all the different platforms. So if you want to follow the Rem and Sam pod, hey, guess what? It's still out there. Chugging along as these get posted. So you can follow us there, here, there, anywhere, chat. It is what it is. You can message us on Instagram if you want to connect with us that way at Rem and Sam pod over there. The DMs are open. Otherwise, we will be back later this week on Tuesday, like I said, with more NFL ranks, figuring out what these teams are looking like going into the NFL season. Keep our fingers crossed. We should have put Daniel Jones in the Pro-Am golfer tier. Hey, yo, shout out. We'll add him in. And to be honest, would the Steelers kill for Daniel Jones right now, chat? I don't know. We'll see. So there we go. There's our we fixed our miss, chat. We added in Daniel Jones. We need a tier for like random guys that will be starters, which would be like the Riley Leonard, Jake Haener, Dylan Gabriel. Who else do we got in this potential tier as well too? I mean, the injury, so it would be like a, Trey Lance if Justin Herbert got hurt. It could be Andy Dalton. Again, who knows? Bryce Young gets hurt, Panthers, something happens there. Maybe Tyson Bagent gets a couple more, or whoever the Bears backup is at some point. Jordan Love could be an injury thing maybe that happens. I don't know, Hendon Hooker on the Lions if the anti-Ben Johnson experiment goes incredibly long. Maybe a 49ers thing happens as well. I don't know if that'd be the most random sort of QB thing that could go wrong. But either way, chat, we'll continue to figure out the QB rankings all week as we go and as we prepare for the NFL season. And we look forward to seeing you guys later. And hopefully y'all can sleep tonight as we remind you how scary the Exorcist 3 was. And shout out to our new favorite, George C. Scott. Hey, yo, he made it out. Thank goodness, chat. It is what it is. So we will be back, like I said, Tuesday. Looking forward to it. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. Peace.